Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of What If Issei Become a Villain in High School DxD Part 4, Chapter 12. Demise of a False Hero. Previously, we saw Issei and Dee prepare for the fight with the leaders sitting on the seat, as Nyx, along with Charlotte and Quinella, sit a few seats away from them. The faction leaders were not happy, but were silent about it. While the match goes on, Issei is visited by Crom himself as he thinks about freeing him. He sees Dee and the battle begins between the two. Dee assumes that he has gotten the upper hand against him, but fails to understand that Issei is only toying with him. He renders them useless as he tortures him. He traps him as he reveals his memories to the whole time. Many refuse to believe it, but Crom's words as well as these memories prove everything to be true. Many were devastated and horrified, but that was not the worst part. The girls that loved him were horrified and devastated completely. Issei kills him and was about to revive him, but Malik comes in and gives them a speech of everything on their fault. He also tries to turn the populace against the leaders, which works to some level as chaos in the crowd. Everything was a mess. In the aftermath, Malik leaves as both Quinella and Charlotte show up and give the girls a well-deserved reality check as they refuse to let the girls take Issei. They believe that they don't deserve Issei and actually should never come near Issei to force him to help, and did everything making him unworthy of him. She also tells Azazel that he does not care if he dies as they all walk away with none of the leaders trying to even dare to stop him. To all, they realize one thing, that he was the monster they created. Citri Hospital, 5 p.m. Boru was watching the match at the hospital. He saw everything from his lies to even how everyone was viewed by him. Even though they cared for his parents, he had no love for his sister, his harem, and his own older brother. No. Goro muttered in disbelief. He had multiple machines that was meant for his recovery. They would normally use Phoenix Tears to keep him alive, but that was not the case since they were at a shortage due to Malik's attacks. His eyes then widened to see Issei brutally kill AI in a brutal way, and revive his brother over and over again. Goro started to have chest pain and difficulty breathing as his eyes started to blur. He wanted to ask his aide to stop, but he was unable to do anything. Fortunately, a devil nurse was passing by. As she looked at Goro's condition, she rushed to him as she looked at Goro. "What the how did this happen?" she exclaimed in horror and surprise. She tried to calm the old man down. She sensed this was the initial symptoms of heart attack. She wondered how did this happen. Goro pointed to the television. As all she saw was Issei finishing die once and for all, she widened her eyes in horror. However, her primary focus was try to get Guru calm. He followed it up by nausea and cold sweats. Guru was coughing up. At the same time, the nurse did not hesitate and used electric shock pads to shock his heart. She used a method called defibrillation. As he bounced up in shock, however, it had no effect. Whatever he saw on that television must have caused this, the nurse muttered. He was stable, but was unable to move due to the wounds. The nurse sighed in relief. He was still alive, but passed out. It was a surprise this happened. If I did not sense this, he may not have survived. The nurse spoke with fear. She was worried that if anything happened to this man, the factions would suffer. The woman had no idea of the exposure of the pillar that had happened. The nurse decided to inform his wife and daughter since she saw them near the hospital. Meanwhile, as this was going on, Mickey was bawling her eyes out. She saw what happened in the match. Even Aika herself was devastated. She believed her brother's lies, and what's worse, he killed him right in front of the whole supernatural world. And not just one, not just two, but 10 times. "Brother, why?" Aika muttered as tears fell from her eyes. She consoled her mother as she rubbed her back. She hated herself for believing her brother who once loved them more than anything else. What should we do, Aika?" Mickey asked her daughter as Aika was speechless. She then spoke. "I don't know what we should do." Aika spoke with a shaky tone. Dee's real nature was a huge slap to the face as the nurse from earlier showed up and spoke. "This is hit and miss." Aika, the two looked at the devil nurse, and as she then spoke with a tone full of worry, "Mr. Haidu had a heart attack." The news only made things worse as Mickey rushed to the nurse and grabbed her by her outfit as she exclaimed, "Where? How is he?" The nurse spoke with slight concern. Don't worry, he has only passed out. I managed to reach him and defibrillated him before things could get worse, Mickey. On hearing this, as she released her, she apologized to the nurse, who shook her head in response. No, ma'am, we understand. This often happens in hospitals, so your actions is understandable. He is sleeping right now. I would suggest to let him recover. Mickey nodded on the nurse's words. As the nurse walked away, both Aika and Mickey decided to go to Goro's room. Mickey and Aika watched as a hospital beep ran constantly as Mickey sighed in relief. Her husband was fine. We must have seen the match. Mickey spoke with fear, seeing the television remote near him and not at the television table where he usually kept it. So what should we do, Mom? Aika asked her mother as Mickey responded, We need to talk to your brother and beg him his forgiveness. Mickey spoke seriously. As she looked at her daughter, Aika saw this and considered this to be a bad idea. Talking to her brother would definitely result in a disaster, since because of what her father tried to say to Nyx, this completely devastated the primordial goddess. She had heard Issei convincing her that she was the reason that there was still a light in his life. She really felt guilty for what she did to her brother. She felt worse. While her brother became no better than RageRevan lived in Lucifer, someone who was worse than a monster. The leaders were speechless. They just witnessed Issei kill his own brother 10 times and revive him over and over again. Saraph thought with fear. He is a monster. Saraph looked at the body of her former lover. She was fearful of what happened to him. She hated herself for falling for him. Yusaka was also fearful. As Malik's message was directed at the factions, she was not in the right state of mind. She had a feeling that her faction might be the next on her list. She feared her daughter's life, as Malik did not hesitate to kill children if needed. Furthermore, she was horrified by what happened to her former lover, Dai. Issei showed no mercy or empathy for him. He killed him 10 times and broke him. He could only imagine what he was going to do to her and her daughter if they got in his way. She feared him even more now. This was a man that would have given her everything, but now he won't hesitate to take everything from her if she dared provoke him. Kunu also had similar thoughts, yet she hoped that one day she could ask for his help to protect her faction. Such a dream will never be fulfilled. The girls from the Gremory peerage hated Dee, and this was true for Ria's Gremory. However, there was immense fear also among them. They did not even want to go to the Hayato residence on the fear of what Issei would do to them. The leaders looked at each other. There would be much chaos in their factions as they would need to quell them before anything could happen. All in all, there was only one person they blamed, and that was Dai Heidu. Graphia, bring 2 guards at the arena. Send this Dai Heidu first to the hospital, and then to put him in Tartarus. He will await his trial once we set up a date for it. Sergiches spoke coldly and seriously, to which Graphia nodded without hesitation. She agreed to it as she teleported to give the instructions. Sergiches and the other leaders watched as 2 guards picked the boy up and put him in the hospital. The faction leaders were speechless. All they could do was deal with their factions before they could meet to settle things down and decide the fate of Dai Heidu. Scene change. Hayato residence, 6:30 p.m. So Issei Hayato was the hero all along. Latia spoke with utter surprise. She knew Issei was not a bad person, but this opened her mind. I had a feeling that he was a good man, Latia said with a smile. But even then, you saw how brutal he was with the eye, right? Sekiruuyetei spoke with slight worry. She was happy that she was engaged to such a man, but even then, she was a bit concerned. Not that I care about his bastard of a brother, but this worries me that he hates the factions. I know, Sekiruuyetei, but you can't deny that it is way better than being engaged to that. Aisha spoke with a smile on her face. She was smarter than many people give her credit for. She understood that this was more of a blessing than a curse, but despite this, she couldn't deny that Issei's hatred might affect them as well. However, she no longer wanted to go back to the faction that did not even consider her anymore. Her own uncle gave her without hesitation, and she will never forgive him for that. On that we couldn't agree anymore, Sekiruuyetei exclaimed with a smile, as even Morana agreed to it. She then spoke. See, Elizabeth, I guess we were right on not going back to heaven. Morana looked towards Elizabeth, who gave a nod. She was really happy that her lord won the match. She had a small blush on her face. Well, Artemis, has your opinion on men changed now? Athena asked with a smirk, looking at Artemis as she scoffed and responded. Well, I guess they are not so bad. Artemis spoke while looking away, hiding her subtle blush. With Athena smiled, her sister was changing, and for the good. I believe those girls will be coming up very soon. Athena spoke with a smile. As the girls nodded, they decided to put off the television and head back to their rooms, not wanting to deal with any drama. They wanted to talk to Issei as they were curious on what his opinions for them are. They wanted to at least get on a friendly start, unlike the factions who wanted to use Issei. Scene change. I'm Skip. A week later, I do residence. 9:30 a.m. Issei was sitting bored. Next to him, Nyx was resting her head on his shoulder. She seemed to be tired. Earlier Issei had confessed to her, and with that she had officially become his lover. They were seated beside the window as rain fell on the ground. It was predictable, since many knew that he loved the primordial goddess, and she loved her. She no longer wore her godly killer virgin clothes, as this may hurt to say, due to him being, well, a virgin. Not to mention, she no longer needed it, as she was not bothered by most of the residents in his house anymore. She already noticed Charlotte and Quinella having feelings for him since he was kind and nice to them. Not to mention he saved them and defended their honor from the devils who only saw them as breeding tools. He never even lied to them, which caused their feelings to flourish, especially after they called him our Issei. Issei, on the other hand, was playing Brawl Stars. He was trying to defeat that pesky Shelly who hid inside of the bushes, attacking his colt. Whenever he tried to locate her, she ambushed him from the bushes, killing him every time. Beside us, he saw the losing screen as Drake tried to cheer him up, asking, "Don't worry, you will get that bush camper next time. I think I should use Terra. Her gadget allows me to detect those pesky campers. It really helps me when I get ambushed every minute in maps like these." Issei exclaimed in an annoyed tone. This unfortunately caused Nyx to wake up. "Eyes, did something happen?" Nyx spoke weakly, looking at her lover as Issei shook his head. He then spoke, "Sorry, I just raged at a lost game." Issei apologized while rubbing his head as she nodded with a sweat drop. She knew how much her lover hates losing games. She understood this as she held his hand closer to her body, making him feel good. "Can I ask you a question, Nyx?" Issei asked, as Nyx looked at him and spoke with a smile. "Go ahead." Issei nodded as he asked. "Did you have no one to visit when you were in the void?" Issei asked, to which Nyx looked sadly. "That was the only memory. I don't want to remember eyes." "It's alright if you don't want to answer." Nyx shook her head on Issei's sad words as she spoke with a smile. "No. You should know. After all, you see, me and my brother were the two things that were born from the darkness. My brother and I created Thanatos, Hypnos, and Onroy. And before you ask, no, I didn't do it with my brother, hence, I wouldn't be able to wear the godly killer virgin clothes." Nyx spoke with a blush, making Issei snicker as Nyx continued in a sad tone. "After that, all four of them left to explore the world, leaving me all alone in the void. Erebus visited me for a while before disappearing altogether." Issei felt sad for Nyx. She must have been alone for a millennia as Issei brought her closer, making her blush. She then continued her story with a flustered look. "Well, after that, I saw Ingvild. I decided to keep her with me in the void. She seemed to be pure of heart and a nice person, and well, I think the rest is history." "Right." Nyx ended with a smile. If she did not kidnap Ingvild, she would have never met her love, as Issei kissed her on the forehead, making her immensely blush. Nyx was more than happy. She found the one that would love her. She would cherish him for all eternity. She was internally mocking the girls that chose Dai Hyadu. They were complete shadow of their former selves. She remembered how the house had become more peaceful due to the lack of their presence. "Well, I heard that your brother's sentencing is today. Wanna go watch it?" "'Cause I am bored and I want to see his suffering." Nyx grinned, showing her sadistic side. She was cheerful to those that she cherished. However, those that were enemies, she showed both her cheerful and sadistic side to them. "Alright, normally I wouldn't go, but for your sake, let's see his trial." Issei spoke with a smile as he activated his ring, and the duo then teleported. He also decided to call Quinella and Charlotte, who happily joined him. Scene change. Tartarus, Underworld, 5:30 p.m. I was being chained in Tartarus. The once hero of the factions was now in this condition. He had everything, but now he was all alone, not even Crumb stayed by his side. This is all because of my brother, Dee thought angrily. He hated his brother even more now. He hated what his brother did to him, but he couldn't do anything. He was stuck here. He had no power or strength to escape. He was barely fed just so that he couldn't run away or escape. Moments later, a man comes in. As Dee recognizes him to be once his former brother-in-law, he looked at Dee with complete apathy. He couldn't believe that he fell for her lies for so long. Because of him, everything in the Devil faction has been a complete jeopardy. Hello, Dee. Sergichus spoke with coldness and hatred. The red-haired Crimson Mao hated Dai to the point he could have killed him, but he chose not to, not until the trial. He still remembered on how the Devil population cursed him and Saraph wherever they went, to the point where she isolated herself in a room. She no longer showed her love for cosplaying as magical girls. She was completely in despair for what had happened. She even refused to talk to her fellow Satans. Furthermore, Riaz has been in her room crying ever since the incident. She was being consoled by her parents and her sister-in-law. They all fell for Dai's lies, and as a consequence, the whole Devil race has been messed up. Due to the manipulations of Riaz, not only was she demanded to give up her status as the heiress, leaving it to her nephew Milikas, but also many even demanded her execution, as because of her, they turned their back on someone that saved them. Sona Citri herself was facing a similar fate, where she was demanded to give up her status. She, on the other hand, was lucky due to the fact there was no known heir or heiress to take up the Citri household. This, however, had another consequence, as the Citri household's reputation plummeted, which would only worsen if she results in being the new leader of the household. This only brought in more sadness for the Citri sisters. Ria's peerage was in equal turmoil. Aquino refused to even move. The betrayal was the last straw. As a result, she became a doll, making her unable to move. She had no one to comfort or console her. Her parents were dead. Her lover was a traitor, and her only relative that cared for her, Suzaku. She was in the hospital, making he stay in that state. Asia cried endlessly. The one she loved turned out to be this way. She was influenced by the people around her to treat Issei like garbage. Asia often used to take influence from whomever she deemed to be an inspiration, which was Rias and Dai, and well, she did the same things Rias and Dai did to Issei. Honiko and Kuroka lost the light of their lives. They believed that Dee would love them more than anything else, but in reality, he only was interested in their body, which made Kaneko look down in shame. She took it the hardest, as she was no better than Dee. She attacked her brother-in-law at every step. Kuroka, on the other hand, saw Daida be just like her father, and she became just like her mother. In a cruel manner, history repeated itself. Kaneko even became more stoic and aggressive than before. Leif was in a similar situation. She cried endlessly. Now that her contracted dragon was someone like Dai Hayadu, she hated herself for falling for his charms. The only person who cared for her was Arthur and the Pendragon family, who were consoling her at every step. Irina was much worse. She couldn't stay in heaven due to her guilt overtaking her. She had become a fallen angel, and Michael could only help her cope with her guilt. Even her parents could not help much. Toggy himself endorsed their relationship, as he hated to say, due to the lies. He and his wife cried their hearts out when they found out about the truth, and now her life is completely ruined. Denovia and Rose despite their attitude, were also broken. They thought that Dee would love them or at the very least care for them, but were heartbroken when they found out about that. They hated themselves for falling for his lies, and they did not stop crying. Gondo consoled her, but that was to show that she pretended to care for her. While Inorgondo was devastated, she hated Dee even more now. Ravel herself was devastated due to the fact that she was the manager of a fraud. She hated herself for believing her lies. She had become even more aggressive as a result to anyone that came near her. Riser and the rest of the Phoenix family were helpless seeing Ravel like this. They blamed Dee for ruining her life. As for the boys, Kiba and Gasper felt like the biggest pieces of shit for supporting the wrong person, as Issei helped or tried to help them with their trauma, but they were only dismissed like the piece of shit they saw him as. Gasper became even worse as he locked himself in the box almost all the time, refusing to come out even when the Gremory family called him for food. The Citri peerage was horrified with Lucero taking the worst since he saw Dia as a warrior. The rest of the peerage was devastated. The ones that took it the worst was Tsubasa Yara. Seirg Baal and his peerage were also affected. Seirg saw him as a rival, who turned out to be a fraud. All in all, everyone was affected after the truth of Dai hideout was revealed to the whole world. Sergiches remembered everything, and he was also to be blamed for believing someone like D. Heidu. But now, D spoke in an uninterested tone. This was not the Crimson Satan's first visit. Sergiches gritted his teeth in fury, but he reeled it in. His anger was not going to do any good. I just wanted to tell you that your trial will be in a few hours. You better get ready, Sergiches spoke while walking away. I gritted his teeth. There was nothing he could do. In just a few hours, he was going to die, and his demise was inevitable. Scene change. I's trial, Underworld Court, 8:30 p.m. I was brought in chains. He looked at the same people that once looked up to him, and now they hate him with all of their hearts. No sooner than he entered, he was bombarded with jeers and boos as they shouted, "Boo, die already, take her. Go back to hell. Because of you my daughter is in depression. You are the reason we abandoned and hated the real hero." I gritted his teeth in fury. He couldn't do anything. As he looked ahead to see that the leaders were all present, he could see each man representing their factions. He saw Sergic as Lucifer from the Devil faction, Michael from Angel faction, Shemazai from the Fallen Angel faction, Narayan from the Yokai faction, Shiva from the Hindu faction, Zeus from the Greek faction, Odin from the Norse faction, and Valerie Teeps from the Vampire faction. The reason some leaders couldn't show up because they weren't in their right mental state. This was true for Yusaka, the queen of the Yaochi, and Aelmenhild from the Vampire faction. Today, we all are here for the trial of the false hero of the factions. Sergiches started declaring this as the boos and jeers increased even more. You have been accused of fraud, deception, and betrayal. Michael spoke coldly as he then asked, "How do you plead?" "Not guilty." Many were angry at what I said, as Shemais. I asked coldly, "How so?" "The proof of your taking your brother's achievements was shown to the whole supernatural world along with what you think of us and your own parents. What do you have to say to that?" I was silent, as Shemais. I spoke. "No words." "I see. In that case, you have pleaded guilty for all the aforementioned crimes. Your sentence will be executed." Shemais, I spoke. "On that, I completely agree upon. Because of this brat, the whole Yaochai faction has been humiliated." Narayan spoke with hatred. Dai only clenched his fists in anger, as Shiva spoke seriously and with disgust. "I should have seen this coming. I am more ashamed by the fact that I fell for the boy. Even then, you should be ashamed of doing this to your brother. He even was willing to let you leave twice. But no, you had to make this life as miserable as possible for him. It's no wonder now he doesn't want to help us." Dai was getting even angrier. "Let us get this over. We already have a lot of problems back at our factions." Auden spoke with a frustrated tone as many refused to believe in him after what he had done, something that many faction leaders agreed to do to the problems they were facing. I, who has had enough, decided to speak. May be a coward, but his death is inevitable. He never really had any love for the faction's leaders. And now, he had nothing left to lose, aside from his life, which will happen in a few days. Him dying over and over again made him no longer afraid of death itself. Oh really, put all the blame on me. But at the very least, even I pretended I still tried to keep the girls happy. Dai shouted with a mocking tone, which angered the leaders, "If you think by executing or imprisoning me, you can appease my brother, then you are wrong. He will never help you. Sure, I have lied to you, betrayed you or deceived you. Even then, you guys are no saints either." Case in point, Sergiches, Lucifer, a certified Siskin, who believed his sister without thinking twice. Sergiches was getting angrier with these words. Then we have Michael himself, who couldn't find out about the truth until it was too late. Michael looked away in shame. He did not deny these words. Shemihazai and Azazel, both of whom fell of the sins of lust, yet criticized Issei for being a pervert. Shemazai clenched his fist. Shiva, who could see the future, yet failed to see what my brother was. You even ignored your visions and believed my lies. Shiva, like Michael, looked down in shame. Adon, just like Azazel and Shemhasai, looked down upon Issei because he was a pervert. You assumed that he was a glory hogger, some all-father you are. Adon gritted his teeth in fury. I was right about him. Valerie Tips is the only one I would respect, but even she failed to stop Amenhot from listening to his say due to blindly believing her friend, that foolish, Traversite vampire Gasper. Valerie was ready to take this man down. And finally, the great blunder god Zeus, whose past and present are riddled with lies and deception. Zeus's hands were crackling with electricity. You can't even stay loyal to your own marriage with Hera, and you even sold away your own girls to make sure my brother helps you. You are the worst amongst them. Dai ended the words as Zeus got up from his seat, as he shouted, You bastard! However, Shiva put his hand in front of him and shook his head. He reluctantly stood down. He looked at Dee and spoke. You are right, we screwed up, but we won't stop fighting. We will find a way to stop Malik, and we will do anything your brother asks us to do, Shiva declared, to which Dai only shook his head. If you think that will work, and if you want to kill me, go ahead. I am not going to stop you. Dai only surrendered. His demise was inevitable, as Shiva nods and he speaks. At least you spoke the truth. Your execution will be in 2 days. You may take him away, Shiva spoke as he calmed down the rest of the angry leaders. 2 guards took Dai away with the leaders pondering on what will happen next. Scene change. Outside, Underworld, 9 p.m. Issei, Nyx, Charlotte, and Quinella looked surprised, especially by Dee's words. They were expecting him to beg for mercy, but he did not show that. Normally, I was expecting him to beg, but this is not what I was expecting. Issei spoke with a tone full of surprise as Nyx responded. Me too, but it shouldn't be. You did kill him in a brutal way 10 times, so comparatively, the factions killing him would be merciful. Nyx explained to her lover as Charlotte spoke. Either way, it was nice to see the faction leaders get angry. Quinella spoke with a cheerful tone, especially Siskin Lucifer. You really hate him, don't you? Issei asked, to which both Quinella and Charlotte both nod in agreement. Indeed we do. Not only does he not act like a leader at times, but he often shows nepotism, which is not good when you are a leader of a huge faction like the Devils, Quinella explained, to which Charlotte agreed. Issei couldn't deny the words. Furthermore, I will never forgive him for what he did to you, Issei. Quinella spoke with disgust, to which Issei nodded. Charlotte then spoke silently. Speaking of which, we should probably head back. I mean, if we leave for too long, they might get suspicious. Issei shook his head in response. They won't, Issei spoke. They are too busy protecting their own skin from their factions, so we can relax for a moment. They will not try anything. Charlotte nodded as she looked at Issei, wondering what he thought about her, as Issei and the girls teleported back to the Haida residence. Once they entered the house, they noticed the house was too empty compared to before. Most of Dyed Haida's ex-harem did not want to be in the house that gave them false good memories. Due to this, Issei was mostly at peace. The only ones that did stay here were Valerie, Ingvild, and Asia. He was surprised at Asia staying back, but at the same time he remembered this was the only place she could have called home. All her times were her crying and falling asleep, having nightmares of her tormenting Issei or being with Dee. Aika and Mickey tried to talk to Issei, with him avoiding them like the trash they were. They treated him the same way once upon a time, so it would be fair to do the same to them. They tried to tell about the heart attack as he scoffed in response. He did not care what happened to his father at this point. He tried to emotionally manipulate Nyx into leaving Issei. As a result, all bets were off, and Issei has had enough of his so-called father. Well, the good thing is the house is quieter. Issei spoke to his girls. Nyx nodded in agreement. Indeed, let's all just rest for the night. I am too bored anyway. Issei, Charlotte, and Quinella nodded. Issei heads inside, leaving Nyx alone with Quinella and Charlotte. Nyx looks at the 2 girls and asks, Can I ask you 2 something? Nyx's question caused the 2 girls to give nods. Nyx's expression changed into a smug smile. Do you two like Issei? The girls immediately became a blushing mess as Charlotte stammered. Yeah ha 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 ha. Hey chuckled. That was all she wanted to hear about. They gave her the answer she needed. However, the scene soon changed into a slight sadness. Even if we do love him, we cannot take our side as his lover as he belongs to you, Charlotte spoke. Quinella agreed to Charlotte's words as Nyx shook her head and responded with a smile. No. If Issei loves you and you love him, I am no one to stop you. The girl smiled as Nyx then became serious as she spoke, releasing some of her own aura. Hurt him, and I will make sure you regret it. The girls gulped at the prospect of even them hurting Issei. They would be no better than Valerie or Ingvild if that was the case. As Charlotte spoke, Issei gave us a second chance at life. We would rather stay dead than hurt him ever again. Charlotte declared as Quinella spoke. We would be no better than those Gremory girls if we did that, Nyx. He made sure we did not become a breeding tool for those factions. We would never hurt him, no matter what happens. Quinella spoke in a serious tone, which made Nyx change her expression into a smile as she spoke. I know you will make Ice happy. Well, I can wish you two good luck to gain his affection. He is slow to trust due to constant betrayals, but I believe that he will trust you sooner than later and even love you. That is what I believe in. Quinella and Charlotte nodded as they headed to sleep in their rooms. Nyx herself went into her room. She remembered a few days ago on how the girls easily infiltrated the announcer's booth, as Charlotte eliminated most of the females by killing them using her signature ability King of Flies, which allowed her to kill anyone by commanding flies, which tore off any flesh that got in the way. She also hid them with ease so that no one could trace her. Quinella was much easier. Her ability charm allowed her to manipulate the low-class devils by making them infatuated with her, and they were easy pickings for them to be eliminated. Most were knocked out and taken out before they could pose a problem. The reason for their deaths was that anyone would find out about them and it would be traced back to them. Even Nod was taken out before he could be a problem. And with Issei's unknown dictator, it was easy for them to hack the system and control it, which Issei remotely did when the transmission cut out. Nyx entered Issei's room where she saw him finishing his bath. His hair seemed to be partially wet, implying that he finished his bath. Oh, hey, Nyx. Where were you? Issei asked, to which Nyx spoke, nothing. Just having a chat with the girls. They seemed to be nice. Nyx responded with a smile. So what do you think, me? They are honestly way better than the Gremory peerage, that is for sure, and are even loyal. Issei spoke with a smile, not to mention, their speech was something the factions, especially the devils, and that crow Azazel will remember for their short lives. Issei ended the statement. He genuinely felt that those two have earned their spot on his group from that day onwards. Why do you ask? Issei asked his girlfriend, to which the goddess responded, nothing much, I just wanted to know what you think of them. I am just happy it was nice. Nyx spoke with a smile. Issei was happy. They acted as friends, if not sisters at times. She has never been this happy. Speaking of which, I was thinking want to go on a date in a few days. We are free before we get back to business. I would love that. My dragon, Nyx, beamed with a smile as the two then headed to sleep, holding each other together, not caring for anything in this world. The only ones having a sleepless night are the faction leaders and several of Dai's former lovers. Scene change. Time skip. 2 days later, City of Lucifed, Underworld, 11 a.m. Hyde, who was walking on chains, being dragged by 2 guards. As he was walking, many of the Underworld citizens started throwing tomatoes and other fruits at him. Some even pelted stones at him. Many shouted, traitor, they doomed us all, filling you as a service. Our hero left us because of you. I just walked bearing the humiliation. Aika, Asia and Mickey were crying as their son was going to die today. They hated themselves for believing his lies. Mickey was the most affected due to this. She felt like the biggest piece of shit for failing her 2 sons, first to say due to neglecting him, and second Dai, who became the way he is because of what is happening. The Gremory peerage were watching the scene with contempt due to primarily falling for his lies. They lost someone they cared about. They completely blame him for that, failing to see the error they themselves committed. Same went for Citri peerage as well. Jinchiro watched from the corner of his eye, hoping that his aide did not discover him before it is too late. All of the supernatural factions were watching with contempt and hate in their eyes. They were happy that justice was being served. In a way, this was the best outcome for what could have happened. However, Issei was not happy with the execution, not because he did care for D. It was because of the people of the underworld and how they acted as nothing but a bunch of hypocrites. Damn them, they acted as if they did nothing wrong. Issei exclaimed in slight anger as Charlotte asked, "What's the matter, Issei?" Issei calmed down as he spoke. "It is because the people of the underworld look down upon me, because of the lies Ria's Gremory and D. Heidu spread. If anything, they are equally responsible for what they did to me." Nyx understood this more than ever. She doubted that if Malik and his faction did not attack them, they wouldn't have seen D's truth, and most likely they would have still remained in their lies. And the worst perpetrator is Ria's Gremory and her peerage themselves. They are the reason why almost everyone in the supernatural hated me. Yet here they are blaming everything on D, as if they are never involved. They sicken me to the very core. Bloody hypocrites. Issei spoke with anger omitting from his tone. This gave him even more reason to wipe them all out. "Do you wish for me to eliminate them?" Quinella spoke as magic was eliminated from her palms. "Not yet, that would be mercy, Quinella. And I don't show mercy to those whores, and knowing Ria's spoiled nature, she will demand me sooner or later," as he spoke coldly. As he continued, "If anything, I would love to eliminate her right away, causing her older brother to despair, but that would be mercy. No, I want her to suffer, I want her to be in pain," as he spoke coldly, as Quinella nodded in understanding. "So we watch." Issei nods upon Charlotte's question. "From what I have heard, Ria's has lost her status as the Gremory heiress due to public pressure. People are even demanding her head." Charlotte spoke with a slight tone of happiness, as Issei responded. "That's just the beginning, Charlotte." Issei spoke with a smile. "Once I am done, Ria's will be begging for death." Charlotte nodded as they watched the procession of Heidu. Quinella then asked, "But what about the Citri heiress? Why is she still the heiress? Wasn't she also complicit in the rumors?" Issei nodded, as he responded, "It is because the family doesn't want them to lose their only valid heiress. Many don't know this, but they have another sister. However, there was barely any information about her since the Citras have hid her from the public." This surprised even Nyx, as she along with the rest did not know of this. As Nyx asked, "How did you know about this?" Issei then explained, "You see, I managed to overhear a conversation between Sona Citri and Saraph Leviathan. It seemed like they hated her for some unknown reason, but all I know is that she existed." Issei looked at the girls, who were surprised by this, as Quinella asked, "So what do we do?" Issei then responded while shaking his head, "As much as I want to know, I am going to need more information about who she is and why is she kept hidden from most of the supernatural world." Quinella and the other girls nodded in agreement as Issei asked, "I never gave a thought about her before since I figured she was happy where she was, but I think I will ask Office about this." Issei spoke, earning a nod from the girls. They watched D standing over a magic circle meant to kill him. The executioner looked at him coldly and asked, "Any last words?" D nodded his head as he spoke with a mad smile. "This execution, let me tell you supernatural faction, nothing is going to change. You may kill me, but sooner or later Malik is going to kill every last one of you." D spoke, instilling anger into many. "My brother won't help you, no matter what you do to me. Your time is coming, make peace with however you have wronged, because your time will soon be up." I spoke as the boos and jeers increased to the point where there was nothing left. The executioner then activated a magic circle as a blinding blaze of holy light burned. "Die alive," he screamed in pain, but this was nothing compared to any of the 10 deaths his say put him through. Despite this, he wished that the pain would end, and when he passed out, he was gone, leaving only the 8 pawn pieces he had in him, which belonged to Ria's Gremory. The executioner then took the pieces and announced, "But that the execution of Dai Haida is over." Many cheered in response. The children destroyed any and all merchandise of Dai Hilda and destroyed anything related to the Ape Dragon show, which was discontinued immediately after his lies were revealed. People went home hours later after destroying the merchandise, and wondered what happened next. They hoped that Malik and his faction would not attack them. However, little did they know that one of the factions would soon be under attack. As Issei and his friends also went home, he wondered what would the girls that were engaged plan on doing. He was planning on getting Mirana, Sigvara and Lesha to his faction. He wondered whether they would accept it or not, since they still have some care for their loved ones and families. Chapter 13. Peaceful Resolutions. Emma Kajihara, Kyoto, 9:45 a.m. The Shinto trio, who comprised Amaterasu, Susanoo and Tsukuyomi. They were discussing what has been going on with the faction leaders. Out of all the factions, they were the least affected by Malik's attacks, but they still had to be weary. Amaterasu was a physical appearance as that of a fit young woman with long black hair. Her hair is also tightened towards the bottom to prevent it from freely moving. She wears the standard clothes of a miko, a Japanese priestess. Tsukuyomi dresses up in old Japanese clothes. He has a crown with a picture of a crescent moon on his top head. His face has beautiful scenery, with long golden hair and matured body posture. Susanoo resembles a young man with long and spiky black hair and gold eyes. He is always dressed in what appears to be 19th century Chinese armor. It consists of 5 parts: the white undergarment, the gold pauldrons, the gold and red vest, gold arm bracers, and gold and white pants. I believe you two know why you have been called here, right? Amaterasu asked in a serious tone. As Susanoo and Tsukuyomi gave nods, they were aware of Malik's attacks and how much the Alki faction was devastated by them. I wish I could fight Malik, he seems strong, Susanoo exclaimed, showing his battle-maniac nature, which caused Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi to glare at Susanoo, to which Tsukuyomi spoke with a sigh. He can beat you in a minute, Susanoo. Tsukuyomi was aware of what Malik was capable of, as he was able to go toe-to-toe with Shiva, one of the top 10's strongest beings. This caused even Susanoo to lose his nature and revert back to normal. Either way, what should we do? We can't just stand here and do nothing, right? Amaterasu asked her fellow gods. She may not like them, but she had no choice. They had to work together. He can go toe-to-toe with Shiva, and I believe that he can even handle Vishnu and Brahma without a problem. Tsukuyomi spoke with deep thought. He wasn't happy with Malik's assault on Grigori, causing it to be near extinct. The fallen angels are as good as gone, and soon several others will be as well. Then are you asking us to wait till he wipes us out? Amaterasu exclaimed with anger in her voice as Tsukuyomi shook his head and responded, No, we need to train ourselves. We have no other choice. Malik is strong, but he is not invincible. No one is. Tsukuyomi responded to his sister in a calm manner, to which Amaterasu calmed down, after which he asked, Speaking of which, how is that fox, Yusaka, doing? Not good, that is all I can say. Amaterasu spoke with sadness. Dehyata's betrayal had broken her for the first few days. She managed to regain her mental state, but she had become cold and distant, almost hating anyone that tried to ask her out. She is getting slightly better, as she is still the same cold and distant person a while back, but she is more understanding now, although I doubt she would take any dates. It was to be expected. And do you think Issei Heidu will help us? Susanoo asked the others, to which Tsukuyomi shook his head and responded, No, I don't think he will. Tsukuyomi's tone was full of sadness as Amaterasu looked away. Like several others, they believed the wrong brother, and this was a consequence of their action. There was nothing they could do. Hi-Do residence, 11 a.m. The office, Issei, Artemis, Elizabeth, Nyx, Charlotte, and Quinella were all sitting on the living room of the residence. They were all on the couch. The office, I called you here because I need your help, Issei asked Office, who looked at Issei in surprise. He usually never calls her or requests her unless it is important. Go ahead, Office spoke emotionally and with a smile as Issei asked, Can you get me more information about the Citri sister that was hidden from the supernatural world? Office looked at Essie and gave a thought as she spoke emotionally. I can't. Essie looked a bit sad. I will ask Great Red about it, and see what he says. Essie nodded as Office teleported away, leaving the rest alone. I wonder why is she so hated? Issei asked in thought, to which someone spoke something. Can I answer that, Lord Issei? Issei looked at the person, and this was revealed to be Artemis, who raised her hand as Issei looked at her and spoke in a neutral tone. Go ahead. Artemis then spoke. You see, in order to hate someone to this extent, you are going to need a reason, a damn good one. Artemis spoke, remembering her initial hatred for men, as Issei agreed to it, with which Issei responded, But what, Artemis? I know you need a reason, even if it is stupid as possible, but what is it? Issei asked, to which the goddess of hunting responded, I think it would be best if you ask my sister Athena about it. She is the best when it comes to questions like these. Issei nodded as he spoke in a tone of gratitude. Thanks, Artemis. I will see you all later. Issei spoke, making Artemis slightly blush as she spoke. Yeah. Issei walked away, leaving the girls alone as Nyx asked, Speaking of which, why Athena? Artemis shook her head as she responded. If anything, my sister needs to know what kind of a man the Red Dragon Emperor is. She and the girls that are engaged to his say think that he is not to be trusted. Artemis then spoke. I think the smartest woman needs to know that his say is not a threat. Otherwise, it can be a problem. I see Nyx spoke with an understanding tone, so that way a trust can build between your sister and Issei. Indeed, Artemis spoke, causing Nyx to crack a smile. Very well, then I hope we can find out more about this citrus sister. I never expected Saraph or Sona to be jealous of anyone. Elizabeth spoke with a surprising tone. When she heard of this, she was genuinely surprised. Why would someone like her be jealous of anyone? Jealousy is a nasty thing, Elizabeth, but she is kept hidden from the rest of the underworld. It seems like the devil families have more secrets than we realize. Artemis responded to Elizabeth, which caused nods of agreement in both Quinella and Charlotte. There was a moment of silence amongst the girls, as Nyx then suggested, How about we girls go shopping? This earned some nods from the majority of the girls who all agreed to do so. There was nothing to do in this house anyway, and Malik nor Issei are going to attack the faction any time now. Scene change, Issei headed to Athena's room. As he did so, he encountered Cythera, as he asked, Hey, is Athena there in the room? Cythera then spoke in a bit of a suspicious tone. Yes, but why do you need her? Issei spoke in a neutral tone. Well, I have a question for her, so I assumed that asking the goddess of wisdom would be a wise choice. Cythera nods at this and leaves as Issei gave her a satisfactory answer. Issei knocks in the room as he does not get any response. Athena, Issei asks. As he does not get any response, he knocks a bit louder, trying again. Athena, Issei's voice became louder. He decided to enter inside the room, seeing that it was empty. He looked around to see the room was completely dark. Moments later, a door opened as Athena came outside, wrapping a towel covering her chest and other private parts. She switches on the light. She sees Issei. There was a moment of silence between the goddess and Red Dragon Emperor before Athena started to get flustered. I am so sorry. I will give you some privacy. Issei exclaimed as he rushed outside and closed the door, leaving Athena with a steamy blush on her face. Moments later, Issei was waiting outside as a voice comes from inside belonging to Athena. You can come in. Issei came inside where he saw Athena wearing something else. She wore a silver dress along with silver slacks. Her hair was still partially wet as she wore the same necklace Artemis had given her. First, I want to apologize for coming in. I knocked, and when I saw no response, I assumed you were sleeping, so I am sorry. Athena shook her head and responded. I should have realized this. You knocked and I didn't respond. Athena spoke with a smile. Issei sat beside her as she then asked, Why did you want to talk to me? Issei looked at her and asked, Let's say I know someone who has a hatred for her sister. Hatred usually has a reason, so what could be the reason? Issei asked the goddess of wisdom as she then spoke, Is she a criminal or hurt someone that this person cared for? Issei shook his head in response, No, I doubt that. Athena understood what Issei was trying to ask, as she then spoke with a smile. I think this sister of that person has something that this person does not have and cannot ever have in their life. This would cause the person to hold anger against the person. That is why this person hates their sister. Issei understood, as he then speaks while getting up. Very well, thanks for your words, Athena. Issei spoke with gratitude as he left the room. Athena then responded, I hope that was helpful. Issei gives a nod. As he leaves the room, Athena then wonders who this person Issei was talking about. Once outside, Issei thinks about what does this sister have that Saraph and Sona don't, causing her to turn on her completely. He was thinking about all the possible things that Sona and Saraph don't have. They are not the strongest devils, and Sona is still weaker than most high-class devils. She is not as gifted as Rias when it comes to demonic power. But she is a tactician despite the fact that she lacks demonic power. And then we have Saraph, who is Satan class. That means this girl needs to be possessing something that would be unobtainable by both of them. As he spoke with deep thought, he then decided to think about it more. Scene change, time skip brought. A few hours later, dimensional gap, 5:30 p.m. Hello, Issei. Arthur spoke emotionally without a smile as he saw a great red above him. Dear, catch! Issei exclaimed as he threw a bag of Skittles at her, which she caught. What is this? Arthur asked, to which Issei responded, Andy, you should try it. Issei nodded as she opened the bag and started to eat the Skittles. It's good. Arthur exclaimed. Her voice was louder than before, which surprised both Great Rat and Issei. Don't finish it, these things are supposed to last for days. Issei spoke to her, to which Office nodded. You spoil her too much. Hatchling Great Red spoke in a worried tone as Issei responded. Don't worry. I only give her a new packet. Once a week, Issei spoke, to which Office retorted in an emotionless tone as he pulled her Skittles towards herself. You're just mad just because I am not giving you any. Great Red sighed at Office's antics. He was not even going to argue, since anything he wanted to eat could be manifested in her dreams. Anyways, Great Red, did you find anything about the Citri sister? Great Red nodded, as he announced. Her name is Miyuki Citri. She is the youngest child of the Citri clan. Her age is 2 years younger than Sona Citri herself. Great Red announced, surprising, as he continued. However, due to an incident one day, she was locked up in the Citri mansion, similar to what humans call house arrest. House arrest? But why? Did she commit a crime? Issei spoke in surprise. He hardly believed that someone younger than Sona would have committed a crime, to which the dragon responded, No, hatchling. You see, I was able to enter into the dreams of Sona Citri and Saraph's Citri and manifest it right in front of me, and well, it turns out, it was something worse than that. The primary reason was jealousy. Issei understood this. This was something even Athena told him as he then spoke. Makes sense. I did ask Athena about this. That means that this Miyuki has something that both Sona and Saraph don't. But what is it? Issei asked Great Red, to which the dragon responded. Her power involves both water and ice manipulation to a level that is considered above God level. She was considered a natural-born ultimate-class devil. Her power was so strong that even when she was a newborn baby, the whole room froze around her. Great Red's words made Issei find some similarities between Sergix and her when he was born. But that doesn't explain the fact that she is locked up. Issei spoke in disbelief, as he continued, Shouldn't the Citri family be happy about this? Great Red shook his head and responded, No, hatchling. Saraph and Sona's lies of her being considered dangerous convinced her parents eventually of her to be imprisoned. They were jealous of her, and her power has the potential to reach super devil levels. They once loved her, but when they found out that she has the potential to surpass them, they started to get jealous, and hence why this happened. Issei nodded. He gritted his teeth. As this girl could find similarities between him and this girl, she was treated the same way as he was, both fooled by their lies. So where is she right now? Issei asked with a little hint of anger in his voice. Right now, she is in her room. She has never been to the human world even once, and she is completely unaware of the modern world. Issei nodded in agreement to Great Red's voice as he spoke in a tone full of gratitude. Very well then, thanks you too. Issei teleported out of here. As he left, Great Red looked at her and asked, Can I have some? Office shook her head in response, making him fall in sadness as his head drooped down. Scene change. Ida residence, 8 p.m. Issei reached home where he saw the girls missing as he grew worried, especially for Nyx, Charlotte, and Quinella. Hey, we are back. Issei turned his attention to the girls, all of whom are now wearing casuals. Quinella now wore a navy blue shirt with white sleeves and collars. She also wore slacks that stuck to her legs along with heels. Her hair was now tied in a bun. Charlotte now wore a casual coat with a strapless top. The coat was black in color, and this was strapped at the center using buttons. She also wore a checkered skirt that reached to her knees. She additionally wore heels as well. Artemis wore a casual light orange dress and brown short pants. She was additionally holding a purse, which was purple in color. And finally, Elizabeth wore a white dress covered by a short pink coat and fluffy white and pink winter boots. "You guys went shopping?" Issei asked, as Nyx gave a nod in response as she speaks. "Indeed we did." It took a while to get Artemis and Elizabeth to decide on what they wanted, but we got. Issei nods, sighing that there would be a dent in his debit balance. "So how many clothes did you girls buy?" Issei asked, as Artemis spoke. "We each bought 5, Lord Issei. Hope you don't mind." Artemis spoke while looking away with a blush. As Issei sighs, "The clothes are brought, and Artemis and the other girls were wearing this." "I don't. Did you girls enjoy your day?" Issei asked, as Elizabeth responded. "Oh, we did, we all did." Artemis wouldn't stop eating popsicles. Artemis became flustered due to embarrassment as she spoke. "I couldn't help it." Elizabeth chuckled in response as Issei sighed again. The girls enjoyed their day after all. "Well, you should rest for the night. I need to do some work." Issei spoke in a neutral tone. "So did you find anything about the Citri sister?" Quinella asked, to which Issei gave a nod. "You did, tell us more." Quinella spoke with an excited tone as Issei took a deep breath and responded. "Her name is Miyuki Citri. She is the third child of the Citri clan, and she was under house arrest by her own clan. It turns out both the Citri sisters were jealous of what she is capable of, hence they lied to her parents to her being a threat. As a result, she was in house arrest for most of her life." I spoke with a serious tone. As several were angered by this, they wanted to rescue her as soon as possible. But for what reason was she in the state, and why was she considered a threat? Artemis asked, while suppressing her anger, to which Issei responded, "You see, she has absolute control over water and ice. According to Great Red, her power was so strong that when she was born, she froze the entire room she was in. Her aura almost rivaled that of ultimate class devils. Furthermore, she has the potential to be a super devil, hence why the Citri clan hides her. And as for Saraph and Sona, they are jealous of what she is capable of, hence why she is in house arrest." Issei spoke seriously, causing Artemis to understand this. "Honestly, just when I thought Saraph couldn't sink any lower, she did the unthinkable." Quinella spoke with disgust, as Issei responded. "Agreed. She is no better than Dai, yet hates him as if she is in the right. She is mentally a child at this point, in my opinion." Issei was equally irritated at what she did. To him, she and Sona both were hypocrites, and he was going to make them regret what they did. "So when do we rescue her?" Charlotte asked, as she was willing to do it right away. She wanted to save her from their sisters and the family before it was too late. "At midnight, when everyone is asleep, but first I will need to research her properly, like how and when do the Citri family interact with her, and when should we strike?" Issei spoke, earning nods of agreement as Artemis speaks. "I can help you in rescuing her. My stealth magic can make sure you are undetected no matter what happens." Issei nodded in agreement as he spoke with a smile. "Thanks, Artemis. You have been helping me quite a while." Issei appreciated the goddess of Hunt, who nodded in happiness, while Elizabeth seemed a bit annoyed by the praise, although she did not show it. "Speaking of which, Gondel has been keeping me up to date with what is going on, and Asgard." Issei spoke, earning interested looks from the girls. As he responded, "It turns out many weren't happy with Auden's leadership due to him favoring Dai and insulting Issei, with the civil war having a chance of breaking out. I see Greek is even worse. People hate Zeus because of the scandals." Artemis spoke while shaking her head, as she continues, "He still blames you for it, along with Dai Haidu. It's to be expected of that blunder god. All he does is make mistakes and does it again. He is an idiot who cannot learn from his mistakes." Artemis nodded in agreement. "And as for the angels, no one was happy with what Michael did to you, and he hopes to make an alliance with you in the future." Elizabeth spoke with an annoyed tone, and we all know how that will end, right? They are desperate, Elizabeth. That is why they made the execution of D public, so that they think I would help them. Issei spoke coldly. Fools, they don't even know what is going on. So do you wish for us to continue spying? Elizabeth asked. Yes, I would like that. Report to me whatever happens. All right. Elizabeth nodded, as Issei continued, and you too, Artemis, and do tell me about Zeus's despair. I want to see that god suffer, Issei spoke coldly. Yes, I don't mind. Artemis agreed to it, as Issei spoke. Either way, thanks. Both of you, Issei complimented the girls, causing them to be flustered. They then teleported to their respective locations to keep an eye on the factions. So Issei, what do you ask us to do? Quinella asked, as Issei spoke. Rest for now, girls, and meet me during midnight. Tell this to Artemis and Elizabeth as well. Quinella nods in agreement, as the four then eat their dinner while being watched by Valerie. I know you are out there, Valerie, come here. Issei commanded coldly, causing her to come out sheepishly. Right, Lord Issei, I need to talk to you about Team/Dog. They have been recovering. Issei nods, as he responds, I see very well, you can leave. Valerie nods. She did not want to ask Issei to rescue Lavinia, out of fear of what he might do to her. She only hoped that she could gain his trust sometime in the future. Anywho, Charlotte, tell Grievous that we will be attacking our next faction by tomorrow. Tell him that he and Malik will be the one in charge. Charlotte spoke as she teleported to the hideout to give the information. As for us, let's rest and wait till midnight. Issei spoke as the two girls nodded. Scene change. Timesip, Citri household, 11:55 p.m. The girl was sitting on the bed with a sad look on her face. She was a lovely, beautiful girl who captivates whoever sets their eyes on her. Her arms and legs are slim, slender without looking too unhealthy. She has a defined and curvaceous figure, and was described to having an aura of serenity despite her being a pure-blooded devil. Miyuki, here I have kept your food. The girl now known as Miyuki looked at her mother. She was described to being an older version of Saraph, with blue eyes and black hair. She wore noble devil clothing. Right, mother? Miyuki spoke in an emotionless tone. As she took her food, her mother left her. Miyuki remembered how no matter what she did, she was always met with scornful glares from both of her older sisters, while her parents kept her inside a room with only them saying that, it's for your own good. Why do I even bother? Miyuki asked silently. As she ate her food, she was sad, as she couldn't explore the human world. Any time she tried to teleport Saraph and Sona somehow managed to locate and find her and force her back. She managed to see their condescending smirks. Before she passed out, she wondered if she would ever get to see the outside world in her life. She ate her food and went to sleep, not knowing that today will be the final day in this house. Meanwhile, Issei, along with the rest of his allies, were watching the mansion with a cold manner. The only who was not present was Elizabeth, who had to perform some work for Michael. She couldn't let anyone know that she is working for Issei. As Issei spoke, we cannot kill anyone here. Unfortunately, our mission is to secure Miyuki Citri. Issei's voice was cold, as it even brought shivers to his own allies, minus Nyx. This was personal to him, and he was going to make Saraph and Sona regret this. So when do we begin? Quinella asked. We begin right away, Artemis, put the magic on us, and Quinella, most of the guards are male, you know what to do, right? Issei spoke as Quinella nodded with a smile. Leave it to me. Nyx created a portal that would direct access to the center of the compound. There they would have to deal with the guards. Quinella, you're up, Issei spoke. As Quinella used her magic charm to infatuate the guards, they all were made to fall asleep. As they tried their best to remain awake, no one saw that it was they who did it. Charlotte, disable any cameras and check for anyone that is nearby. Issei spoke through a magic circle, as he had given unknown dictator to the Beelzebub descendant. She can also use her ability to see if there was anyone that could be a problem like Saraph Leviathan, as she could ruin the stealth mission. After a while, Charlotte spoke. Everything is clear, you may go. Issei nods, as the three head inside Miyuki's room. She was asleep. Issei lightly tapped her cheek, causing the girl to wake up. Who are you? Miyuki exclaimed in worry as Issei spoke. Relax, we are not here to hurt you. My name is Issei Haidu, and this is Nyx, and my ally, Quinella Asmodeus. They both greeted the third Citri sister as Miyuki calmed down. Issei explained who he is, and after a while, she asked, "What does the Red Dragon Emperor want with me?" Miyuki asked with worry. She was well aware of the two dragon emperors were capable of. They are strong. I want you to get you out of here. Issei spoke seriously, to which Miyuki widened her eyes. However, her eyes suddenly fell away as she spoke. I think you should leave. Miyuki spoke with sadness as Issei asked why. Miyuki shook her head as she spoke with a sad tone. Because even if I want to leave, they would come and imprison me back. They know when I can teleport, Lord Issei. Issei understood that the girl was being tracked. As Issei sighed, he activated a magic circle and spoke with a smile. I know what I need to do. Once the magic circle was run through her, she felt no different than before. He then spoke. I believe you should pack your stuff and come with me. Issei spoke with a smile as she asked. Does that mean I can go out? Issei gave a nod as Miyuki beamed at this and immediately rushed to pack her stuff. She had 2 suitcases full of them as Issei asked, Is that all? Miyuki gives a nod as he then summons 2 teleportation circles. One for his group plus Miyuki, and the other for Artemis and Charlotte. They are all then teleported to the Hayate residence. Scene change. Hayate residence, 1 a.m. Issei and his group entered the Hayate residence. They settle for a moment on the job. Well done as Issei speaks. Well, Miyuki, pick a room. You would be living here from now on. Alright? Issei speaks as Miyuki comes close to him and hugs him as she speaks, looking up and with a genuine smile. Thank you? Issei was taken aback. He could sense some jealousy coming primarily from Nyx. As he gulped in fear, he then spoke. No worries, just rest. For the night, Issei spoke with a tone of nervousness. As she nodded, she then took her suitcases and headed to an empty room. Beside, as he turned to comfort Nyx, who was taken aback by this action. She blushed immensely as she hadn't experienced this in a while. Hi, Nyx asked with a flushed face. She was surprised to see Issei act like this. The other girls pouted with jealousy, hoping that Issei would one day do this to them, while Artemis was watching the scene in amusement. They're happy? Issei asked with a smile as he earned a nod from the primordial goddess, as Issei then split up from her while Nyx remained blushing. He then spoke. I think you all should rest. Tomorrow we will begin the attack on the next faction. The girls nodded. Thankfully, no one was there to even try to watch them. As the girls head to their rooms to rest, Issei and Nyx head to Issei's room, as Nyx was actually preparing the bed, as Issei snuck from behind her and embraced her as she blushed again. Nyx stammered as Issei spoke. You seem jealous, so that is why I thought you would feel nice if I did this. Nyx smiled genuinely. She held Issei's hands as they both decided to head to bed. Nyx then asked, I was thinking, what should we do once this all gets over? Issei looked at his girlfriend and responded, honestly, I haven't thought about that. Once the factions have been dealt with, we can go on a nice vacation, and mostly, we don't even know what will happen. Issei spoke with a smile, while bringing Nyx closer to him as she spoke. I would like to properly settle down, not as the Red Dragon Emperor and the Primordial Goddess, but as a regular married couple, nothing more, nothing less, and with our new family. Nyx responded with a cheerful smile as Issei nodded. He would also have loved that. He then brought her closer as she cuddled him. Both then sleep for a good day. The night all in all was calm for everyone as they all slept peacefully, knowing tomorrow is a good day for them. Scene change. Saraph's residence, 1:30 a.m. Saraph suddenly woke up when she sensed her magic going off, as she was horrified to see what had happened. Miyuki has escaped. Saraph spoke in disbelief before exclaiming in fury as she remembered the girl, her own younger sister. She was jealous of what she is capable of. She feared her power would surpass her, and eventually she would be the next candidate for a super devil. She never got the chance to become a super devil, unlike Surgiches and Ajuka, as she was not strong enough. She trained, but no matter what she did, she couldn't do it. She eventually gave up. However, When her sister was born, she showed talent that was similar to Sergich's. This caused jealousy to build inside of her. She vowed to make the person that released her regret it. Whoever did this, I will make sure that they regret it, Saraph shouted. She was going to make sure that they pay with their lives. She needed to find her little sister so that she could take her back to the mansion. Unbeknownst to her, doing such a thing will be her undoing. Chapter 14. Double Demise. Gua Academy, 6:30 a.m. Sona and Saraph were sitting in the student council office. Saraph is here as she was informing them about what happened with Miyuki. Wait, she ran away? Sona asked, surprised. How? I assumed that our seals were strong enough to detect whether she would escape or not. Saraph shook her head and responded in a serious tone. No, Sotan, whoever released her not only knows about her existence, but also is strong enough to remove it. They can be a problem. Sona widened her eyes at this. But if she is out, that means she will know why we had locked her up. We had locked her up because Sona trailed off as she remembered that her sister surpassed her by miles. She could easily take her down if she wanted to, and with the right training, she could surpass even her older sister. Because she is stronger than the both of us combined, Saraph spoke with slight fear. She feared her sister's potential, and honestly, she couldn't let her take her place since the Devil Council will consider her a candidate for Satan and may replace her. So, Tan, you must look for her at all costs, eliminate anyone that would stand in your way, and if you can't let me know, I will step in even, I will look for her. Saraph spoke seriously as Sona nodded in agreement as she teleported, leaving Sona all alone. Damn it! Why did she escape? How did she escape? Sona slammed the table. She remembered what her sister was capable of, and she was terrified and jealous of what she is capable of. Her life has been a downhill ever since Issei acted out of line. He was responsible for not helping them, not that she blames him for that, and after that everything went worse for her. The Issei's truth was revealed to the rest of the world, and everyone that had connection to him was severely affected, and Sona and Ria's were the worst to be affected. Whenever and wherever she went, people started to boo and jeer at her. Any and all respect was as good as gone. She hated Dai for what he did to her. He betrayed both her and her sister without hesitation. Furthermore, she couldn't do anything as the people demanded a removal of her as the heiress and demanded her execution. This was something Ria's also experienced, and couple that with these betrayals shattered her completely. The only reason she was still sane due to her parents and her siblings trying their best to be able to help her. Dai's one or several eyes was starting to shake up everything. The false pillar managed to succeed what Kao's brigade could only dream of. To bring the alliance to its knees, and it was at an all-time low point. Issei, not working with them was only making things worse. Despite this, she still couldn't blame him. They treated him like garbage, and now they are in the same situation. I hope I can find her before it is too late. Sona spoke as she headed out to greet the Qua Academy students. She only hoped that she could find her before anyone did. Unbeknownst to her, Artemis had recorded the entire conversation as she spoke silently. Bunch of hypocrites, Artemis teleported out of there. To her, these two were no better than Dai Heidu. The only difference being, despite the fact that he was a fraud, he still spoke the truth at the end. A2 residents, 10:30 a.m. Quinella and Charlotte were training Miyuki in her magic. They were given access to the dimension lost by Issei and were asked by the latter to train her. The reason for Issei not being there was because he had to go to Qua Academy to avoid suspicion. She is amazing. Quinella spoke in disbelief by how strong this girl was, or more accurately, she was amazed by the potent strength she showed in magic. Indeed, I can see why that midget Satan wanted her sealed. She could take over her in no time. Charlotte, who was also amazed, agreed to Quinella's words. They were happy that they saved her before it was too late. All Quinella had to do was teach her the basics of the magic, and that was it. She was able to understand it. Even Quinella herself admitted that it would have taken her at least a few minutes to master it, but here she is who managed to do it in a few seconds. So how did I do? Miyuki asked, in happiness, as the two instructors snapped out of their amazement, and Quinella appreciated her. You did amazing, Miyuki. Never have I seen such prowess in magic. You will be strong in no time. Quinella exclaimed as Miyuki spoke in gratitude. Thank you. Miyuki looked away. As she spoke, "It is the first time I was appreciated in my life." Miyuki remembered what Sona Citri and Saraph Leviathan, her two older sisters, had told her. "I can't believe I have a sister like you. You are such a disappointment. You know we are doing this for your own safety. You cannot go out, you are a danger to everyone." "Oh, don't listen to your sisters, you are amazing, even we are amazed by how much control you have." Charlotte spoke, snapping her out of her saddened state. I guess both Quinella and Charlotte understood that she lacked confidence as Quinella spoke. "How about this? We can go outside. You do deserve to know about the outside world, right?" Quinella spoke with a smile as Miyuki looked at her in amazement, widening her eyes in surprise. This was the first time she would visit the human world. "You mean it?" Miyuki asked, as Quinella gave a nod and a smile as she speaks. "You should go with Issei once he gets back. He is the best person to know this place." Miyuki gave a nod and beamed as Charlotte returned the dimensions back to normal. Miyuki headed to her room as Quinella and Charlotte were in disbelief. She had no idea of the outside world. "I wonder how much sheltered in her life was she?" Quinella spoke in shock and amazement, angered by what lies could do to someone. "I know, Quinn, but even then, the fact that her own sisters did this, it is really disgusting." Charlotte agreed to her friend's words. However, to many, they would seem like sisters more than friends. "I just hope that Issei is able to help her. He is really patient when it comes to matters like these." Quinella spoke, remembering his time with a certain blonde. "Well, either way, I wonder when will Issei let us come with him to Qua Academy. I would love to teach those humans a lesson so that they don't hurt our Lord again." Charlotte spoke with anger in her voice as Quinella rubbed her head and spoke. "Relax, Charlie. I believe Issei will be dealing with them personally, and they would be afraid of him eventually, just like those faction leaders." Charlotte nodded at Quinella's words. "Speaking of which, how about we see what Malik has planned for his next attack?" Quinella asked, to which Charlotte nodded. They then teleported to the hidden base. Scene change. Malik's base, 12:30 p.m. The duo of girls teleported to the base where they were greeted by the battle droids. The base had become bigger than before, with it now resembling a whole army base with several battle droids guarding the entire location. There was both the Malevolence and the Leviathan were ready for their operation as they both were powered on. However, what caught the eye were several small silvery spaceships that had V-shaped component. They had blaster cannons and special self-operating systems. They also were capable of fast travel and fast evasive abilities. Quinella noted that these were the variable geometry self-propelled battle droid. Mark I also nicknamed the Vulture droid. The other was much bigger than the original as it was silver in color as it was in its Walker method. It had a red eye at the center. It was more rigid in shape. This was the Hyena-class droid fighter, also called the Hyena bomber. "So the droid ships are done?" Quinella asked, as Grievous approached from behind and spoke. "Indeed they are, and we will begin the attack on the Yokai faction relatively soon." Grievous spoke with a grin. He couldn't wait to put the Foxusuka down. Her huge form will be a problem, but he had the Vulture droids and Hyena bombers as they could easily damage her skin and fur without any problems. Charlotte then asked. "I believe so. Issei should come back from his school by 3 p.m. so we can attack then. He has a score to settle with Yusaka and Kunu for their treatment." "Right," Grievous nodded as Malik then spoke. "That is why we will capture her alive, and she will be our sleeper agent. She will be the one to turn any remaining Yokai into dust. And besides, if Issei does have a grudge against them," Malik spoke with a sinister grin, "it would be amazing for a mother to kill her own daughter. Indeed it will be. It is hard to have any empathy for them, and the fall of that faction would be a massive blow to the alliance." Quinella spoke with a sinister grin of her own, as Kella then asked, "But there is both East and West Yaochi faction." "Right. So who is going to attack what?" "I will bring in the Leviathan to take out the defenses of the East Yaochi faction. Comparatively, that faction is weaker than the West Yaochi faction, so they will fall fast." Malik responded to Charlotte, who nodded. Malik then continued, "Plus, each Hyena bomber and Vulture droid has buzz droids, and these are known to tear apart the flesh of even supernatural creatures. they can penetrate any magical defense and completely destroy them. I see. How long will this invasion take? Quinella asked, to which Malik responded, a few hours. We are also bringing in legions of battle droids, and according to Kalani, he has an hail-fire tank on standby, which will wipe out any low to middle class. Yokai Grievous nodded as Kalani approached them and spoke. The chances of them escaping are very low. The Yokai faction will meet the same fate as Grigori, but if there are some survivors, we will leave them be to make them suffer a slow death so they can either die today or later. Either way, it is a win-win for us, Kalani explained. As the two generals nodded, Malik then asked, what will the two of you do? Both the girls spoke in response. For now, we will watch the show. You can enjoy the carnage. Just think what will happen when they find out that Issei was the mastermind behind everything. They will lose any and all hope. Charlotte's words earned laughs from all characters. It would be game over for the factions. Scene change. Time skip. Yaochai Territory, Kyoto, 3 p.m. Hunia and Yusaka were walking across the fields of Kyoto. The good thing was that Dai's betrayal was able to get the two to recover from the physiological and emotional wounds that he had inflicted on her. It was slow, and they are now stable enough to actually handle themselves. It was not the first time they were betrayed like this. Their mate had abandoned them a long time ago. As a result, they had a hard time trusting men. Even the male Yokai wasn't an exception to this. But now they would hardly trust anyone due to Dai's betrayal. Issei would have been one of the people they could trust, perhaps even love, but that was a long time ago. Now he hates them more than anything else. If anything, they now fear him because of how brutal he is, and fear that if he does not help them, they will be screwed. Malik was clearly afraid of him, meaning that he was their only hope. Mother, how will we get Issei to help us? Kunu spoke with a sad tone as Yusaka shook her head. No, Kunu, he hates us. If anything, he wouldn't even bat an eye if any of us dies. Yusaka did not hesitate to tell her daughter the truth as Kunu started to cry. Yusaka hugged her daughter and spoke with a hoarse voice. It will be okay, Kunu, it will be okay. Kunu cried onto her mother as a tear fell from Yusaka's eyes. Dai's lies affected the two of them a lot as she fell for them. She was ashamed of herself for falling for them. Suddenly she peeked up. Her instincts were telling her to flee as she saw that the sky had suddenly turned a dark purple. She immediately created the sun shower barrier as there was a sun shower that happened recently. She tried to move the Yaochai population to safety, however, fired the ion cannon. A voice commanded. As a ship appeared from above, the design intimidated the Yaochai queen, and a purple energy cannon was aimed at the barrier. It was the Malevolence. Yusaka turned her attention to the blast as it completely nullified the barrier, leaving her people vulnerable. No! Yusaka shouted as Kunu looked up to see the ship. She watched in horror. The sunshore was still present, but to create another barrier, it would take time, and time was what she did not have. Pyro cannons, the same voice commanded as a barrage of plasma blasts were aimed at the Yokai. Yusaka tried to protect the people along with Kunu. But it was too late. She hugged her daughter to protect her while shielding herself from the blasts. When the two opened their eyes, they were met with a shocking sight. Many Yokai were killed right in front of them. Several were critically injured. Those that were unlucky had plasma wounds on their body, which was a black charcoal skin, along with some of it being burning. However, no blood was drawn. Damn it! Yusaka turned her attention to the man responsible as she saw the droid general himself. Gritting her teeth in fury, she looked at Kunu and spoke seriously. Kunu, you need to run. Yusaka spoke while gritting her teeth. She knew that the droid general in front of her was dangerous, as Kunu retorted. But Yusaka looked at her with an angered yet pleading look as she responded, Save yourself. I will hold him off and come to you soon. Yusaka lied to her, assuring that she will be fine. However, she was not sure if she would survive the fight. Kunu looked at her one final time and reluctantly ran. Grievous. You have made a big mistake attacking us. Yusaka turned her attention to the droid general and shouted. With the droid general just cackling, he commanded the battle droids and his legions of BX series of commando droids to attack any Yokai and show them no mercy. Yusaka could only watch in horror as her Yokai were being massacred by the blaster bolts of the battle droids or gutted by the commando droids, which resulted in blood being spilled everywhere. "You will pay for this, you bastard!" Yusaka shouted as she then got news from Nurarian that the East Yokai faction was also under attack, and this time it was by Malik. Scene change. Yaochai Fields, Kanto, 4 p.m. Malik was watching as his Leviathan was using turbo laser cannons on the Yaochai, wiping them out with ease. There was no mercy shown as Magari. The Yaochai Nikomata unleashed a blast of fire at the Leviathan, but it had no effect. "Damn it!" Malik only cackled as he announced, "If this is your prowess, then you stand no chance against us." Malik announced from his battleship with Magari gritting her teeth. Malik used the Leviathan to approach underneath the Yaki. "Magari, get out of Narayan," warned her. But it was too late. Malik followed by an orbital bombardment as she screamed in pain due to the plasma cannons hitting her body. Once the bombardment struck her, she was completely charred with her reverting to her small cat-like form. "You bastard!" Narayan shouted as Malik used telekinesis, making the Yaokai choke himself up. But before he could do anything to defend himself, Malik started to suck out his life energy, as the Yaokai could only watch, but as his life force was being sucked out. "It was a good thing I prepared myself for nature energy, otherwise it would have been a problem," Malik thought with a serious tone, as the Yaokai couldn't do anything but watch as his life energy was being sucked out, leaving nothing but a husk of his former self. The Narayan was no longer breathing. He was gone. Magari, in her anger, used whatever energy she had to unleash the strongest fire blast, intending to burn the bald man alive. "You bastard!" She managed to land a hit, causing an explosive hit on Malik, which resulted in a massive explosion. The other Yaokai sighed in relief, hoping that would kill Malik. They only hoped that this would end the madness he was unleashing onto the supernatural race. However, as the dust settled, Malik was fit and fine. His body, even when being struck by an attack like that, was durable, which shocked and terrified the Yaokai. Bagari was even more terrified. She passed out due to exhaustion as Malik commanded the droid legion under him to lay waste on the Yaokai as they were mercilessly wiping out any Yaokai that got in the way, as even the Leviathan joined in, unleashing quad laser barrage and turbo laser barrage, showing no mercy to them. "It seems like the Yaokai faction of the East has fallen." Malik spoke with a mocking grin as he commenced several more orbital bombardments on the East Yaokai faction. Scene change. Yaochai Fields, Kyoto, 5 p.m. Hisoka was struggling against the droid general and the immense gunfire as she was trying to hold him in place. However, he was extremely evasive, with him striking Yusaka when she was least expecting it. Using his 4 light blades, he was able to deal severe plasma wounds to his enemies, and Yusaka was on her knees from the attack as she held herself in pain. She gritted her teeth due to her helplessness. Out of desperation, she transformed into her fox form, which was a giant 9-tailed fox with golden fur, as Grievous described it to be 10 meters in height. "You will pay for destroying my people, Grievous." Yusaku's voice boomed across the fields. She unleashed fox fire as the droid general kept evading the attacks with ease. Grievous was aware of her fox form, however. He saved the vulture droids and hyena bombers for later. The huge fox kept unleashing fire blasts aimed at Grievous, who kept evading the attacks like anything. She had to use the ley lines to keep up with the droid general. She unleashed the poison field, but it had no effect on the droid general. "It seems like Dai's betrayal has affected your intelligence," Grievous spoke with a mocking tone as Yusaka growled in response. The poison field had no effect on the droid general. He moved through it like it was nothing as he easily tried to slash the fox's skin with ease. Yusaku shouted in pain as he then commanded his battle droids. "Send in the hyena bombers and vulture droids." The battle droids responded to their general's commands. "Roger, Roger." The droids commanded the ships. As they were aimed towards her, the droid ships started gunning her down with defensive blasts, while the B-1 battle droids and B-2 super battle droids gunned down any Hawkeye that was nearby. Yusaka herself was too focused on the ships as she exclaimed, "You damn cheater." Yusaka furiously shouted towards the droid general who just scoffed. "In the war, there are no rules." Grievous exclaimed in response as he commanded the hyena bomber and vulture droids, deploy the buzz droids. Several small droids the size of a human being, which looked similar to a beetle, showed up as they were silver just like the other aerial ships. The buzz droids attached themselves to Yusaka as they started biting onto her flesh. She screamed in pain as the buzz droids tore off her flesh. Yusaka desperately tried to remove the buzz droids by shaking them off or using foxfire, but the buzz droids bit into her inside flesh to such an extent that she was unable to move. They tore off her flesh and threw it on the ground. Seeing an opportunity, Grievous activated his 4 sabers and charged at Hisoka. While she was distracted, Grievous twirled his lightsabers at such high speeds that the centrifugal force was strong enough to even cut through the air. He propelled himself up in the air and started tearing off her flesh. Yusaka screamed in pain as her flesh was burned. She cried in pain as she looked at the wound. It was charcoal as the blades burned through her fur and skin. "You bastard!" The buzz droids continued to tear off her flesh until she passed out due to the loss of blood and flesh she had. She reverted from her vulpine form to her human form, except she had the same wounds as before. She was groaning in pain. Forever, the buzz droids bit her and tore off her flesh. She was bleeding and passed out due to the loss of blood. The wounds were almost all over her body. As her shrine maiden clothing was stained with blood, the Yokai faction was falling soon. "Normally I would kill you, but he would love to have a word with you." Grievous approached Yusaku, deactivating his light blades. As he carried her, Kuna tried to run to save her mother, but she couldn't due to fear. Furthermore, there were battle droids everywhere along with vulture droids. They wouldn't hesitate to take her down, and someone needed to inform the factions on what had happened. No mother at tear escaped from her eyes before she hid herself. Out of fear, she couldn't do anything as the droids would gun her down in an instant. For now, she could only watch the droids take away her mother while she was helpless to do anything. There was only one truth she was made highly aware of. The Yokai faction had fallen as she watched the droids disappear into thin air. Scene change, Malevolence. 6 p.m. Grievous and Malik had reached inside the top of the Malevolence. Earlier Malik had autopilot Leviathan back to his base. She was under restraints. She is unconscious with her arms spread apart along with her legs, as Malik spoke. "So this is her, the fox yokai, Yusaka." Grievous gave a nod as he then spoke. Indeed, she was a bit annoying, but not beatable. Some buzz droids, and she was done. "I see, Issei would be happy to see her in this condition." Malik spoke with a smile as he lightly tapped the fox yokai with his hands. Where Yusaka looked around to see both Malik and Grievous looking at her. She tried to escape, however. Her hands were cuffed as Malik spoke with a grin. "Don't bother, those are anti-magic restraints. You cannot move, now you are just stuck like the others." Yusaka feared what these two were going to do with her as Malik spoke with a grin, as he enjoyed seeing her suffer. "Well, I would let him have a word with you." A man came out of the shadows as he wore a black jacket with red outlines on his shoulder. Additionally, he wore a white shirt. He wore black jeans as he muttered in a cold tone. "Hello, Yusaku." Yusaku recognized him. It was Issei Heidu, the man that was once her savior, muttering due to disbelief. "No, it can't be." Yusaka watched in horror as she exclaimed in disbelief, "Issei Heidu." "Indeed, it is me, Yusaka. It's not a pleasure to meet you." Issei spoke coldly. He hated her more than anything as she shouted in horror, assuming that Malik is controlling him. "Issei, please listen. You don't have to do this. You don't have to listen to him." And Yusaka was interrupted when Issei started to maniacally laugh at her, which made her widen her eyes in horror. "You really think that I am being controlled by him? Are you really that dumb?" Issei spoke with an evil grin as he continued. "Every single attack, every single thing that Malik has done, I have done. I am responsible for everything. I am the mastermind of everything, Yusaka." Yusaka was in complete shock and disbelief as she muttered in a sad tone, "No. Yes, I did everything. D's exposure as a false hero was all part of my plan, and the best part was that you all believed his lies, and now you face this monster," Issei declared. As Yusaku had tears falling from her eyes, this was the consequence of her actions. A hero of the factions was now their worst enemy. They had no chance of winning against him, let alone fighting against him. Yusaka then tried to reason with him. To say hi to, please listen to reason, wiping us out won't do you any good. You can still redeem yourself and make things better. You don't need to do this. Please, just come back. Yusaka shouted as Issei only chuckled as he came closer, pulling her chin towards her and spoke with an angered tone. This is the reason why I hate you factions. You think that I would just ignore every single cardinal sin, every single action against me, every single humiliation you want me to forget. But you know, I am not like you. That I will forget everything. I know for a fact that people like Zeus and Saraph would never accept me because I destroyed their pride completely. Those bastards think that I am entitled to serve them, that just because I am a human, I am compelled and must serve them, that I am nothing but a tool to meet their ends. But I am not like that. I am done being a tool. I am my own person, and I will stay as such. No faction leader will control me, for I am a dragon, a being of power and strength. They underestimated me for so long. Look down upon me, but not anymore. You will watch as I destroy the factions once and for all, Issei declared as Yusaka's tears do not stop falling, seeing that she was one of the few responsible for creating a monster that will wipe them out. Issei brought out Elfica Tyrant. Yusaka's instincts were telling her to flee, and this was due to light-based weapons as he spoke with an evil grin. You see, light-based weapons are your weakness, and this sacred gear erases memories and personalities, right? You will be reborn as one of my slaves, and you will destroy your own faction along with your daughter with your very own hands. Meanwhile, your real self will do nothing but watch as you destroy your own faction with your very own hands. You will experience the same sadness and despair I did. Issei's words made Yusaka widen her eyes in horror as she started to struggle even more to stop Issei. No, Issei, please. Yusaka shouted, pleading Issei to not do this as Issei ignored her. He then threw multiple nails aimed at her, isolating her real self and creating a personality that was subservient to her. Her eyes were starting to lose their shines as she heard Issei's last words. The next time you open your eyes, you will be my first sleeper agent, Lady Yusaka. Issei's tone was mocking. Yusaka tried to reach out to Issei, but she was gone. She closed her eyes as a tear fell from one of them. She knew that there was nothing she could do. Issei walked away as he spoke. Let's head back. There is something else I need to do. This earned nods from Malik and Grievous as they headed back to their base. Scene change. Go town. 9:30 p.m. Issei and Miyuki were outside as they decided to wear casuals. Issei wore a striped shirt, which had red and white stripes. He additionally wore beige jeans with zip pockets and black shoes. Miyuki, on the other hand, wore a blue crop top with a white skirt that reached right above her knee. It was a short skirt. She additionally wore heels and left her hair open. Well, where do you want to go? Issei spoke with a smile as Miyuki spoke with a doubtful look. I don't know, I have no idea, this is the first time I have gone out. Issei raised one of his eyes as he spoke. How about I take you to a fast food place? You might enjoy it. Miyuki nodded, having no idea what the duo had inside the fast food store. It was a McDonald's store. As they sat down to eat their food, Miyuki watched her burger wondering what she needed to do. Oh, you have to eat like this. Issei picked up his burger with both of his hands and puts it near his mouth and spoke, garnering Miyuki's attention. He then opened his mouth and took a bite of it. Like this? Miyuki asked as she followed Issei's movements and took a bite of it. She immediately widened her eyes, noticing how tasty the burger was. This, I never had this in my life, Miyuki spoke in amazement as she then turned to Issei and asked, this must have been expensive, right? Nope, it is cheaper than most restaurant foods. Issei shook his head and spoke with a smile as Miyuki started gulping down in the food. Issei felt like her life was completely like prison before he had rescued her. Indeed, partner, I can't even imagine how they could do this to someone so sweet. Drake spoke mentally with fury in his voice as Issei nodded in agreement. True, Saraph and Sona are gonna regret what they did to her, they are beyond mercy. Issei spoke equally angry as he watched Miyuki eat her fries with her bare hands. She was able to eat it normally, and as for her drink, Issei had to teach her in a proper manner by sipping it from the straw, which she learned quickly. As they left the area, Issei decided to take her to the arcade. As expected, she was awed by whatever she saw due to her being in the human world for the very first time. She entered the arcade as she saw a racing game. She wanted to play it. "Do you want to play this?" Issei asks, to which Miyuki nods. Issei puts a coin as Miyuki starts to play. At first she struggles, but Issei teaches her on how to play it. She manages to grasp it. "Just a little more, just a little." "Good job." Issei watches as Miyuki reaches third place in the race as she happily exclaims, "Thank you, Issei." Issei smiles in response. He was lucky she was found, else who knows whether she would experience the outside world or not. A few moments later, Issei had to go to the bathroom as he spoke. "Stay here for a while. I will just go to the restroom and come." Miyuki gave a nod as he left. Miyuki continued playing on the arcade, but unbeknownst to her, someone else had entered the room as she spoke. "Working has stressed me a lot. I wonder if there are any games I could play." The boy spoke. She was Saraph Leviathan, as she roamed around the arcade to play with. However, from the corner of her eye, she sensed someone's familiar aura. It's that Saraph turned her attention to the arcade that Miyuki was playing, as she grins maniacally. "I have found you, sister." Saraph walks towards Miyuki as she grabs her hand. Miyuki was surprised by this action as she struggles to let go of it. "Hey, let go!" Miyuki exclaims. Saraph was happy. She was able to find her sister before it was too late, as she desires to teleport before creating a barrier so that the humans present don't witness this. But Miyuki was not going to let that happen. Miyuki notices her sister and pleads with her to not go home. "I am not going back to that place." Miyuki begs her sister to let her go, but to no avail. Saraph tries to activate teleportation, but Miyuki freezes everything due to her anguish. She emanates aura due to her anguish. This was picked up by a certain dragon. "You are going back, whether you like it or not," Saraph smiles. As she activates teleportation, Miyuki cries. She does not want to stay alone. She does not want to be isolated. For once she was enjoying herself, but she is not yet strong enough to stop her sister. However, unbeknownst to her, someone was rushing to rescue her. Saraph was almost close to teleporting back to the Citri household, directly to her room. That was when her hand was grabbed as if forced to release her. She looked on in shock as she exclaimed, "So the bastard, who took my sister Saraph, looked to see the person, only to find the color of her face completely drained." She was afraid of the person in front of her. It was Issei Haidu, and he was furious. He punched Saraph so hard that her jawbone was broken. It was dangling as Issei looks at Miyuki and asks, "You okay?" Miyuki gives a nod, as he wipes a tear from her eye. She smiles genuinely. However, a magic ice attack strikes Issei, who blocks it with a holy magic shield. "You have got some nerve to show yourself and attack one of the people I protected. I am going to put you down, permanently," Issei shouted with fury. Saraph was afraid, as she pleaded with Issei. "No, please, I was just wanting the best for my sister. Hear me out, spare me." Issei screamed in response. "Shut your mouth, you filthy woman child." Saraph tumbled behind, as she was now completely afraid of Issei. "You are no better than my brother, Dai Hardu. I know what you did to your sister. You tried to imprison her due to the fact that she had much higher potential than you. Both you and Sona Citri were complicit in what you did. Both of you lied to even your own parents, making them think that she was a threat. You took away her childhood, her life, and yet you admonished I. You are a hypocrite and a jealous coward, Saraph Citri. You don't deserve the title of Leviathan." Miyuki was shocked at this. She was horrified by what her sister saw her as. She was jealous as she spoke in surprise. "Why, what did I do to you?" Saraph gritted her teeth as she radiated her aura, as she shouted. "She is a threat. Both you and her are threats to the devil race. And yes, I was jealous because I worked hard to become stronger, while she failed to do so. I will take my sister back." Issei shook his head while being even more furious. Miyuki was almost in tears. She saw the truth of what her family thinks of her. She did not ask for this power, yet she always wondered why her family kept her as a secret. They were manipulated by her sisters due to her potential, which they were jealous of. Issei spoke coldly in fury. In that case, today is your last day to breathe. Issei removed his true long eyes and exclaimed. Saraph feared this. As she watched in horror, Issei was going to kill her tonight. Balance breaker, polar night Chakravartin. 7 orbs came behind him as Issei commanded. Adaratana the orb fired a beam that took away the magical power of Saraph, reducing her to a mere human. At the time, this will only last for a short while. Do what have you done to me? Saraph shouted as Issei spoke coldly. They can away your magical power. The treasure I use takes away a female's ability to do anything, including magic for a short amount of time. It's time to end you permanently. Issei looked at Miyuki, who was still crying, as he spoke. You okay? Issei spoke. As Miyuki gave a nod, she looked at her sister with disdain in her eyes before looking at Issei. She was still soft-hearted as she spoke weakly with a tone full of sadness. Saraph wanted to escape, but she had lost all of her magic. She had tears due to her fear of what Issei will do to her. Please don't let me take her away. Issei understood this. He decided to show Saraph that he is far stronger than her. It's time I show you the truth idea. Issei spoke coldly as he started to chant. Saraph then shouted, O spear! The true holy spear, which pierces through God. Suck the ambition of domination sleeping within me and pierce through the gap of blessing and destruction. Announce my will and turn into a glow. The bright holy light was released. This was Asahi's will manifested into reality. Miyuki was afraid that it would hurt her, but it gave her warmth and comfort. However, as for Saraph, the light started to burn her skin. No. Nanananin. Saraph begged in fear and mercy as the light started to glow even brighter. Her skin was burning in agony as she watched in horror. Her hand then fell apart, followed by her other hand and her limbs, all of which started to disintegrate, leaving no trace of them. She screamed in pain as her whole body was burning alive. Her torso was soon burned as she cursed Issei and Miyuki one final time. No, damn you, hide you, Issei. Damn you, Miyuki. Ah yes, Saraph screamed as she was evaporated into the light. Once the light left, there was no trace of Saraph. Issei deactivated the orbs. As he looked towards Miyuki, he then asked, You okay? Miyuki looked at him and gave a nod. Let's head back, okay? Issei then teleported the two back to Haida residence. Saraph was no longer going to harass her. She was dead, and she was never going to come back. He even made sure to destroy her soul as well. Scene change. Issei was waiting outside as Miyuki was crying, being consoled by Quinella and Charlotte. As Charlotte spoke with disgust. I can't believe she managed to ruin the only day that would make the Miyuki happy. Quinella nodded to her friend in agreement. Even now I don't understand how was she able to find out about her. Quinella asked in surprise, as Issei explained. I believe some of her aura was picked up by Saravel's Citri, and that was how she was able to detect her. Quinella and Charlotte nodded, as Issei continued. I think Saravel finding her was pure coincidence, despite that. How can you be so sure? Charlotte asked in confusion. Quinella rubbed Miyuki's back while muttering, It's okay, as Issei responded. Simple. 2 reasons. Saraph often does not come to Kwa, so she must have came here to play arcade. At the same time, I took her to that place. And the other was that if anyone was to find about her, it would have been Sona due to her being present in Kwa Academy. Issei explained to the 2 girls. They remembered how she was still the heiress despite her controversy. And Rias apparently can still live here due to Asia. Issei spoke in an exasperated tone. This was primarily true for most girls that once belonged to Daihatsu. And he was not a big fan of this. Issei, can I make a request? Issei turned to the attention of the voice. It was Miyuki, as she spoke. I want you to train me so that I become strong enough to take down my sister and her family once and for all. I don't want to be weak enough to be locked up again, so please train me. Miyuki bowed in front of Issei. She wanted revenge. They took away her childhood, and she hated them for that. She wanted to become stronger so that no one will ever try to do that ever again. Issei looked at her and asked, Are you sure? Miyuki responds with a nod. Sona took my childhood away from me, just like Saraph did. I will never forgive them for that. Miyuki declared in pure anger while rubbing her tears from her face as she looked at Issei in the eye. She then spoke. I desire to become stronger so that no one can take advantage of me again. Issei understood and gave a nod as he spoke. In that case, I am not going to stop you. You will be trained, and when the time comes, you will have your revenge, and I have plans for that. Miyuki intently listened as Issei told her about the plan. He was planning to tell the whole world about this, effectively ruining the whole reputation of the Citri clan completely. Chapter 15. Chaos in Qua Academy. The next day, Haida Residence, 9:30 a.m. Miyuki seems to be bowing in front of the other residents of the Haida Residency. She then spoke with a smile. Please take good care of me. Miyuki scanned the room. She was happy that Sona Citri was not present. Everyone, please welcome Miyuki Shiba. She will be staying here with us. Miyuki nodded as the Haida residents did not mind her presence. Issei, where did you meet her? Ingvild asked, to which Issei responded. Though she was quite unfamiliar with the outside world, I just met her a few days ago, and we became quite good friends. Miyuki nodded to Issei's lie. As a result, they managed to buy it and only consider them as friends. The residents then dispersed doing whatever they were doing, except those that knew who Miyuki was. Issei had given her a pendant that would seal away her devil aura, making people think that she was just an ordinary human. Well, now that you are here, you don't need to hide from anyone. Issei spoke, earning a nod from the devil. Indeed, speaking of which, where are Rias and her peerage? From what I have heard, the house residents were high, so where are they? Miyuki asked, to which Nyx responded. Ever since the pillar of the faction's truth was revealed, they all are still mourning in their own homes, although they will be back soon. Miyuki nodded. She had heard of Dai Haida's deeds, which turned out to be lies when two servants were conversing with each other. I see. Miyuki spoke with thought as she then changed into a shrug. Well, they got what they deserved for believing the wrong guy. Speaking of which, would you like to go to Qua Academy? Issei asked. Miyuki nodded immediately. Her sister Sona was there as she spoke. I am in. Issei nodded. Quinella and Charlotte had a request. As Quinella spoke, Issei, we both have a request. Issei looked at them and spoke with a smile. Go ahead, Charlotte then asked with a pleading request. We both want to join you in Qua Academy. Can you please let us come? Issei sighed as he spoke. Fine. You two can come, but are you sure my reputation there isn't the best? Quinella shook her head and responded with a sweet smile. Oh, we would be fine. Anyone talks ill about you, they would be on the receiving end of our wrath to say. Did not know why, but he felt fear for some unknown reason. Well, in that case, please look after Miyuki when I am not there. I don't trust the Kendo girls and Aika Kiryu, they are the ones that she needs to be weary of. Issei spoke with worry. They are known to be the ones that gave him the most trouble when it comes to the female population of the academy. Even if you didn't ask us to, we would be wary of them, and that girl is a hypocrite. She is nothing but a menace that uses the female gender to her advantage. Quinella spoke with a smile at the start before she changed into a cold tone. Thanks, girls, I know we can count on you. Essie spoke with a tone of gratitude as the girls gave a genuine smile. Speaking of which, Nyx, do you want to also come? Nyx gave a nod as she speaks. I will be coming in, nod as a student. However, Nyx gave a smile as Issei and the rest wondered what the primordial goddess of darkness was planning as she gave Issei a wink. Miyuki, on the other hand, clenched her fist. She was ready to give trauma to Sona Citri as she thought, I am coming for you. You better be ready, sister. Qua Academy, 10:30 p.m. Issei was sitting bored on the desk. He was back in the hellhole known as Qua Academy. Many wanted to ask where his brother, Dai Haidu, was, but he waited for the right time to reveal everything. Greeting everyone. Issei widened his eyes. Upon hearing the voice, it was Nyx. She no longer was wearing her casuals. Instead, she wore a black coat with a white formal shirt and a black tight pants that displayed her figure properly. Additionally, she wore shoes that was as dark as night. I will be your new homeroom teacher, since Miss Rose cannot be present due to family emergency. My name is Nyx Mavrose. It is nice to meet all of you. Nyx introduced herself. As Issei widened her eyes in surprise, many of the boys started to cheer, which included the perverted duo as well. Oh, look at that rack, she is a model. Matsuda spoke secretly. Her waist is 83 centimeters and her waist is 55, she is good looking. Motohama also spoke in secret. This was unfortunately heard by Issei Heidu, who was furious at these perverted morons checking out on other girls despite already having a girlfriend. Irradiated some of his aura, which made many shiver in fear, forcing them to calm down. Nyx chuckled at her boyfriend's protective nature as she gave a glare to all the boys and spoke with a smile, that Issei interpreted to be sadistic. I am already taken, although I won't reveal who it is. The boys who were single slumped in defeat. Now then, there are 3 additional girls I would like to introduce. Nyx spoke as Quinella, Charlotte, and Miyuki came in. My name is Quinella O'Clair. It is nice to meet you. Quinella spoke with a fake smile. She really hated the people of this room, except her allies. My name is Charlotte Browning. It is nice to meet you, Charlotte exclaimed with happiness, but internally, she wanted to sit next to Issei. And my name is Miyuki Shiba. It is good to meet you. Miyuki introduced, as the boys cheered in happiness, while the girls glared at the boys. Nyx then spoke. I believe that we are past homeroom, so take up any seats you want. The 3 girls nodded and sat next to Issei, much to the class's chagrin. Many wanted the girls to sit away from the pervert and underwear stealer. Matsuda and Motohama gulped in fear, worried about what would happen if the truth came out. Miss, where is Daiheidu? Caddis asked to Nyx, who internally was disgusted at the mention of his name. She had heard of his reputation as the 3rd prince of Ko Academy, as Nyx lied to the class. You see, he had an accident and is right now in hospital, but he should make a steady recovery. This made the class or the human side of the class breathe a sigh of relief. Those that were unaware of the supernatural were the ones that breathed a sigh of relief. The others were surprised by what Nyx had spoken. They wondered what the goddess of darkness was planning. As Nyx started to teach the class Greek, a language that would be important later on, scene change. Sona, can I ask you something? Sona turned around to see Rias Gremry calling for her, as she looked at her and gave a smile, and she spoke. Go ahead. Rias then spoke. I believe you have heard of the new students and teacher that came in Ice's class, right? Sona nods. She had heard of them. Quite recently, they were heading towards their next class due to now them being in college. Indeed, 2 of them were Asmodeus and Beelzebub. Rias spoke with a tone that hinted jealousy. As Sona nodded, she understood that it was Heidu that had brought. As Sona then asked, who is the teacher? Rias then spoke. It is Nyx. She is the new homeroom teacher that replaced Rose was. Sona nearly widened her eyes in shock. She wanted to do something about it. As she asked, what the hell is Heidu thinking? Rias sighed in response. As she spoke, Issei brought her with him. You know what will happen if you try to do anything to her, right? Sona gulped in fear. She remembered how Issei dealt with 3 of the 4 Satans like it was nothing, which included her older sister. I know. Does he not care? Sona asked, but then stopped. She should have known of Issei's current nature. She was fearful of Issei, as she then asked, who is the 3rd student? Rias then spoke. Her name is Miyuki Shiba. She is the 3rd student that came with Asmodeus and Beelzebub. No sooner than Sona heard the name, she shivered when she heard of this. She knew who Miyuki was. It was her sister, and she was with Issei Heidu, but despite this, she had to confirm who she is. Rias, can you describe how she looks? Sona asked with worry, which made Rias confused as she spoke. She had black hair and blue eyes. Sona shivered when she had heard of this. She then exclaimed, That's not Miyuki Shiba, that's Miyuki Citri, my younger sister. Rias was confused as she asked, But didn't you tell me that she passed away, Sona? Rias asked, confused, to which Sona widened her eyes as she realized that she would expose herself in front of everyone. She then spoke. I thought it was her. Sona spoke with fear. Rias felt sad. She was unaware of the truth as she spoke with a sad smile. Rias knew little of what her friend was hiding from her. She must look alike then. Well, let's go to class. I know wherever she is all right. Sona nods at Ria's words as they both head to class. Sona then thinks, I need to confirm this for myself. Sona thought with fear if this was the real Miyuki or if this was a look-alike. Scene change. Hi-Do residence, 12:30 p.m. Miyuki was walking to her next class. She was alone. This was due to the fact that Charlotte and Quinella had some job to do. This was asked by Issei Heidu. The girl sighed in annoyance. Issei was right. The Kendo girls demanded the three to stay away from Issei, only to be sent flying by both Quinella and Charlotte, causing many to not mess with the three girls. However, she was stalked upon by Sona Citri, who wanted to confirm as she saw her to be looking the same as her sister did. She then thought, well, she does look like her. Sona thought with worry. She then walked outside as nothing wrong ever happened. You! Miyuki looked to see her older sister. Anger boiled inside of her. She wanted to deal with her right away. However, she promised to say that he will give her the chance to deal with her. You're Miyuki, my sister, right? Sona asked seriously, to which Miyuki pretended to not know anything. Miss, I have never met you in my life. Who even are you? Miyuki spoke in a mocking tone. Sona tried to sense her devil aura, but she was surprised to see her human aura. But despite this, she refused to believe that this was not her sister, as she asked, You're Miyuki, I am your older sister, Sona Citri. Miyuki was internally fuming. She wanted to kill her right away, but she had to calm herself. She did not deserve to call herself as her older sister. I am the only child, Miss Citri. I have never met you before in my life. Miyuki lied to Sona, as Sona was starting to get angry as she spoke in an angered tone. You're my younger sister, don't you remember? Miyuki starts to lose her rage and starts to get happy, seeing her older sister get angry. My name is Miyuki Shiba, not Miyuki Citri. You've mistaken me for someone else. Sona then spoke with an increased tone. No. You sound and behave like my younger sister. You are Miyuki Citri. Come with me home, sister. Miyuki was ready to defend herself. However, Issei came before a fight could escalate. Citri, she is not your sister. Issei came towards Sona, making her shiver as she tried her best to maintain her composure. Issei sighed as he spoke. He needed to prevent a fight from escalating since now was not the time. Look, she is Miyuki Shiba, my friend. She is a child of an ordinary couple, which have no siblings. You can go back to your class. Issei spoke seriously. But Issei looked at Miyuki, who asked, feigning confusion. She is calling me her younger sister. What is wrong with her? Issei then responded in a mocking tone. Oh, she has an older sister. I think she is cuckoo crazy. Miyuki then chuckled while Sona was fuming with fury and embarrassment. Issei then turned her attention and spoke in a mocking tone while feigning confusion and concern. I know you have an older sister, but you never told me that you have a younger sister. Are you okay? Sona just walked away from the situation with an embarrassing look on her face. Thanks, Issei. Who knows what would have happened if you didn't come? I hate her very existence. Miyuki exclaimed with pure fury. Once Sona was out of the way, I was nearby, coincidentally, but even then, you have got some amazing self-control. Issei appreciated her, causing Miyuki to smile. Issei then spoke with a smile. Well, let's head to the next class. Miyuki nodded in agreement as they both left for their next class. Meanwhile, Sona was completely in fear, knowing full well that it was Miyuki Citri, and both Issei and the rest were hiding her from the rest of the world. But at the same time, she couldn't do anything given how strong he is. He was surprised by what happened. Issei was known to be very aggressive, yet he was calm when she was talking to Miyuki. She believed that Issei did not see her try to get angry. She breathed a sigh of relief that she was all right. I think I should go to class, Sona said, trying to get her mind off something else. She decided to look into this, Miyuki Shiba. She needed to tell this to her older sister. However, she wouldn't respond since Issei had already dealt with her. Scene change. Time skip, Gua Academy, 1:30 p.m. It was Charlotte and Quinella's idea, as they were annoyed by those girls who were demanding them to be separated from Issei, whom they started to love. I am not going to lie. I hardly care for those idiots. The only reason I wanted this to happen was because they started to go after you guys, especially Miyuki. Issei spoke with venom. He hated the Kendo duo the most, but now they have gone too far. They even went so far as to attack Quinella and Charlotte, only to be sent flying by the two girls. Well, we can't let them besmirch our lord for so long and get away with it, right? Quinella spoke with a smile as Issei just shrugged. I guess, well, the announcing booth opens up in 30 minutes, so you might want to get in before it is too late, Issei spoke, earning nods from the two girls. The girls head inside with all the evidence as they vowed to make the lives that hurt their ass safe for so long as miserable as possible. In an added bonus, this would make both the Gremory and the Citri heiresses' lives as miserable as possible even in the Qua Academy where they were still revered as Qua's Great One E Samus. Are you ready for this, Charlie? Quinella spoke to her friend. Well, I am. Let's reveal the truth to everyone. Charlotte spoke in a cold tone as Quinella used her charm to knock out the people guarding the booth before they took to the stage to expose the real traitors. They uploaded the videos that they had collected, which included those that Issei had given them to, which included Issei showing himself to be much more innocent as opposed to what they anticipated. The reason for them using the school Wi-Fi was that it was much faster. Scene change. Issei was standing next to Nyx and Miyuki at a different location. No sooner than they stood there, everyone got a notification on their mobile phones. It only had 2 words, which were the truth. They all, out of curiosity, clicked on the title. It revealed the video of when Issei decided to deal with the perverted duo himself, as well as Dai Hayato. But it was not just the Qua Academy, the video was being broadcasted to the whole of Qua Academy. They saw on how the perverted duo stalked Issei, revealed that it was them that was spreading the rumors, and finally the mastermind showing up. However, they were surprised to see Issei fight back, making many surprised since they saw him as weak. The video made everyone widen their eyes in horror. As soon as the video ended, they all looked at the perverted duo in disgust and horror as they all fell for their lives. They were the ones that spread the rumors about Issei, making his lives as miserable as possible. It also revealed the mastermind behind these rumors, Dai Hayato. Many of the girls were heartbroken when they saw those videos. They soon realized that the one that they had a crush on was nothing but the scum of the planet. They wanted to be friends with him so that they could go on a date with him one day. However, that fantasy shattered when his absence was there for days and finally when his truth was revealed today. But there were additional videos compiled into the single one where Matsuda and Motohama was not the only accomplice. Junichiro Saji, and even Ria's Gremory herself was involved in these videos. They saw on how Junichiro willingly agreed to spread the lies of Dai Hayato with even Ria's doing the same. Both continued to spread the said lies not only to the entirety of Qua Academy, but also Qua Town as well. Once the videos were done, that is when Quinella and Charlotte announced from the announcer's booth. As you can see, all those videos are nothing but true. They were recorded in secret and made into a singular compilation. Charlotte announced with anger in her voice. Many were disgusted at what the 5 did, and they looked at Motohama and Matsuda with anger and disgust in their eyes. They both feared and shivered what would happen next. Their whole lives had gone down the drain. Some were even feeling guilty of falling for their lives, resulting in them attacking Seihedu, and the worst part was that they did not even apologize for what they did. The worst affected was Aika. She should have seen this coming. She never helped her brother when he needed her the most, and she believed the wrong brother resulting in this happening. Junichiro was also afraid of what was happening. He never thought that Hayato would come to know the truth, and Zenobia and her student council were glaring daggers at Saji for his involvement in the mess. I was a fool to trust you, Saji. You should be ashamed of yourself. Zenobia spoke coldly and with spite in her voice. Inshiro could only look away. He feared that just like the others his world had come crashing down on him. Out of all the girls, Zenobia, Roswies and Ravel regretted their actions the most, since they believed multiple people, even at school and in the supernatural, same went for Ingvild and Valerie. However, they realized it much sooner than before. They all watched as Quinella shouted, "Oh, don't you dare put the blame on those 2 stains on society completely. You all are complicit in what you did. All of you are responsible for making his life a living hell." Quinella then continued, "You all disgust me to the very core. All of you, students, teachers, everyone responsible for this." They all looked down in shame. Even teachers did not bother checking for the rumors, as they all fell for the lies the students were spreading without actually bothering to check whether it was true or not. And the teachers, you are supposed to maintain discipline in the academy. But you always have punished the victim, you always fell for their lies and tried to make him the bad guy. You all should be ashamed of yourselves. You are a disgrace to every single teacher out there that is trying to do their job, Charlotte shouted with pure fury, causing some of the weak-willed teachers to cry. But don't you dare go to him asking for forgiveness, thinking that he will forget and forgive any of you, because he is not going to. He will never forgive you, no matter what you do. You are all way past that. You can only be ashamed of yourself and regret what you have done, because he will never forgive you. Quinella announced, earning silence from them. The cries in the audience started to increase even more. However, there are 3 additional violators that are present in our school, Quinella announced, earning surprised looks from the cast as they all wondered what she meant. It turns out Murayama and Caddis, our 2 kendo captains, are just like Dai Hideout, nothing but frauds. This surprised many, with both the girls sweating nervously. They hoped that Quinella did not reveal what they were actually doing. They feared what would happen next. They are substance abusers as well as use performance-enhancing drugs to improve their capabilities. Don't believe us, let us show that to you. Gwenola spoke as another notification came on their mobiles. There were images of the 2 girls using performance-enhancing drugs to improve their strength and capabilities. This shocked several and angered many. While not comparable due to the crimes of Diheidu, it was still nevertheless one. These are our protectors. Well, they at least did a good job in hurting the wrong person. While the real victims get away time and time again, I think you know who they are, right? Charlotte announced in fury, causing the girls to escape. However, they were surrounded, and they feared what would happen next. Quinella then announced, while sending images to all across Qua Academy. But there is another case in point. There is an actual pervert. Her name is Aika Carrillo. Aika Carrillo feared what would happen as a final notification came, and this was Aika Carrillo, who smelled men's undergarments and often used to even do some stuff among them. Aika was sweating nervously as the male students moved away from her, out of fear. She was worse than Issei or any of the other perverts in the school. Quinella spoke, this is what happens, and she has been getting away with this deed for the past 3 years, and I know some of you male students wouldn't even mind this. You all disgust me. You all should be ashamed of this, and Aika Carrillo, you are a sex offender, you should be the most ashamed of this. Aika could only look away. All in all, it was a terrible day for everyone. Many of the students and teachers were bawling their eyes out. Issei, Nyx and Miyuki watched the scene coldly. They hardly had any empathy for them. Charlotte ended the speech by exclaiming, I hope you are proud of yourselves. You have been tormenting an innocent for all those years. You all should be burning in hell for your actions. Charlotte and Quinella ended the speech as everyone was crying. Issei, Nyx and Miyuki left the school as they reunited with Quinella and Charlotte. So how was the performance? Quinella asked, as Issei spoke with a smile. It was good, and however, they were interrupted by Sona's Citri and Ria's Gremory, both having unpleasant expressions on their faces. The word, Issei's expression changed to that of annoyance. Even Miyuki and the others were not happy with this scene change. Sona and Ria's were not having unpleasant expressions as they were looking at the group. You do know that using magic is wrong, right? Sona asked seriously, to which Issei spoke with a shrug. Those are rules made by the factions, but I am not part of the factions, remember? Sona and Ria's were not happy by this answer, as Nyx spoke in support of Issei. You are not mad that Issei used magic, you are mad because we ruined your reputation. Right. Hearing this, both Sona and Ria's clenched their fists in fury. However, they couldn't do anything, they had to stay down, otherwise, Issei wouldn't hesitate to kill them. If you are here to waste our time, then we have got better things to do. Now if you will excuse us, we will leave. Goodbye. Issei spoke as they all got up and left the room, as Sona and Ria's could only watch as the trio left. Ria's wanted to stop them, but Sona grabbed her hand. She only shook her head as they were at a tight spot. They had just got the news that the Yokai faction had fallen, and they will be having a meeting soon enough. What will it take to get his help now? Ria's asked her friend in worry as Sona spoke in response. I honestly don't know, he just does what he wants. When he wants, we would only annoy him. And you know what will happen when that happens, right? Sona's words made the Gremory heiress gulp in fear. They knew that he was dangerous, and only hoped that Malik's madness could end. Scene change. Time skip, Underworld, 5:30 p.m. An emergency meeting had been called by Surgiches as soon as the fall of the Yokai faction had happened. What's worse was the fact that both Yokai leader Yusaka was taken captive by the robot faction and has not been seen since. The leaders present were Surgix Lucifer, Ajuka Beelzebub, Odin, Michael, Shemahazai, Azazel, Megari, Shiva, Zeus, and Amaterasu. The Yokai faction was completely devastated, with only Megari being the one that was present due to her being the only high-level Yokai in the room. As for the others, they all had solemn expressions on their faces. Well, what now? Surgic's tone was grim, primarily due to the fact that the Yokai faction was now completely wiped out. Just like Grigori, things have been looking grim for the Alliance. The truth of Daihaida, coupled with the fall of the Yokai faction, will forever have a permanent stain on the supernatural. Things are looking pretty grim for our kind. Yusaka-sama is missing, Kunuz-sama is in despair, Nararayan-sama has been killed. It seems like Malik and his army are unstoppable. Megari spoke while breaking down into tears. Amaterasu consoles her in this dark moment. It's gonna be alright. We will avenge what we have lost. But how, Amaterasu-sama? How will this happen? How can we stop his unstoppable army? He showed no mercy to any of our kind, Megari exclaimed before breaking down in tears. I really don't understand. What did we do to him? Why does he want to wipe us all out? What did we do to deserve this? The Matarasu was speechless. She understood Megari's pain as she saw Narayan die in front of her eyes. The situation is truly looking hopeless, Ajuka trailed off. Many of the leaders had to agree. Issei did not budge from his decision as he spoke. Even Saraph is nowhere to be seen. What do you mean? Shimuz, I asked. Where is she at a time like this? Ajuka shook his head in response and spoke. We know nothing. All we know is that she went to the mall last night, and after that, there is no trace of her. Did Maliki have been the one to attack her? Michael spoke with worry as Surgic has dreaded what he could do to her. She must have been imprisoned just like Yusaku, and hence there was no trace of her. Even Sona tried calling her, but the number was no longer present nor could they sense her magic signature. Either way, we need to identify this. She went to Cool Mall last time, right? Surgicius asked Ajuka, earning a nod from the man. We need to take the security recordings. That is the only way we can find what truly happened. Surgicius spoke seriously, as Azazel spoke. That won't be necessary, I can get them right away. Azazel got up and teleported away. A few moments later, he had obtained the security recordings. He had used a mind spell to convince the security guards, and after that it was relatively easy. Well, here goes nothing. Azazel started to play the recording. There everyone was surprised to see Issei walk in with another girl that awfully looked like Sona Citri. Is that Haidu? What is he doing here? Surgicius asked surprised, as Odin responded in a joking manner. Probably taking one of his harem girls to a date. They continued watching. Moments later, Issei left out of the arcade, which made them understand that he must have been doing something. After a while, Saraph came in, and then she never came out. They waited and waited, ignoring the other girl that came with him. Their focus was Saraph as the lights eventually had shut down, and this meant them all had closed. This left the room in complete silence as Surgiches spoke, breaking the silence. It seems like Haidu is the only one that knows where Surgiches is. Surgiches spoke weakly. He did not desire a confrontation with the one that could easily kill him and his entire race. Surgiches, I hope you are not going to ask him. Shiva exclaimed with worry. He knew that he would have to be stupid to ask him. Surgiches spoke with a grim tone. We have no choice. If anyone knows where Saraph is, it is him. Surgic's words did not sit well with the god of destruction, who spoke with a concerned voice. I hope you know what you are doing. One wrong move and you will. Surgic has responded in a determined tone. I know, but if it is for my friend, I will do anything. Shiva shook his head in disappointment, knowing messing with Hayava might result in a disaster. Either way, the Dog team is recovering very soon, minus Lavinia, so that is the only good news we have. Azazel spoke with a sad smile, remembering Quinella and Charlotte's words. He hated what he did to his Sei, and he hated himself primarily for that. That's good. I hope they are doing all right. Michael spoke with a cheerful tone as Azazel shook his head. 2 factions had fallen, and there was nothing they could do. Malik and Grievous, along with their armies, had already rampaged across many lives. I hope so. Azazel's tone was grim as he spoke. What now? We have to find a way to convince Heidu. That is the only way we have. Otherwise, all the factions are doomed. Shiva spoke wisely, causing some to be fearful. He then asked, I just hope that the people in our factions have calmed down. My faction still hates me for what I did with my daughters. They are on the verge of a civil war. They want me down, Zeus spoke sadly, earning a nod from Adon. They both have been suffering from this due to what had happened. Mine is in a similar state. The devils want Ria's Gremory and Sona's Citri to be executed for their crimes. I am only stalling this by telling them that even they were manipulated by Dai Hideout's lies. Sergitius spoke, to which a duke and nodded in agreement. In the aftermath, Rias is no longer the heir of the Gremory clan, while Sona still remains the heir due to the clan having no additional heir. My faction is much better, but seeds of distrust and anger have been brewing. It will only take a while before a civil war begins. Michael spoke with a grim tone as Magari, Shemhaziah and Azazel were silent due to their factions being wiped out by Malik and his armies. Shiva was also quiet due to him only joining the alliance due to them needing to work together in order to seal away the beast of Apocalypse Trehexa. But either way, we can get Heidu on our side to calm the factions down, otherwise you all are done for. I guess that is all for the meeting. Anything else? Shiva asked, to which Sergitus shook his heads. Very well, I hope we all can survive against Malik and put a stop to his madness. Otherwise, if this continues, the supernatural will be wiped out. Shiva spoke seriously, making several dread on what will happen. Many like Sergitus, Michael, Azazel, Odin, and Zeus were afraid due to them having families that are endangered by this new threat. They all then teleported thinking of ways on how Issei could rejoin the factions so that he could help against this threat. They are, however, unaware that Issei is the mastermind of this threat, and soon everything will fall apart. Scene change. Ida residence, 9:30 p.m. Issei was working on his plan to expose the Citri clan to the rest of the world. Sona will be a problem to him and Miyuki since she will want to know whether Miyuki is her sister or not. He may have taken Saraph down, but the Citri clan still remains. He knew that they would be a problem, especially now that Miyuki has gone missing, and Miyuki's Shiba was just a cover-up. However, his thoughts were snapped when a magic circle opened up, revealing it to be belonging to that of the Yaochi. Yaochi? Issei was on guard. He was not in the mood of dealing with any of them. However, he was surprised to see his guests. There were 2 of them. He recognized Kunu as she begged Issei. Please save my mother. Issei scoffed and spoke. I told your mother and the rest of your faction once before, not my monkeys, not my circus. You can leave now. Issei walked away as Kunu tugged on his shirt, refusing to let go of it. Moments later, the rest of the house residents also came only to see Issei with Kunu and an unknown fox, Yokai. We sensed the Yokai magic circle and Quinella spoke recognizing Kunu. However, she was unable to recognize Harahim as she asked Issei. Who is she? Issei answered her question. That's Hariam Sanjuno, the handmaiden that belongs to this kid. Issei pointed to Kunu earning nods from the ones that did not recognize Hariam, that being Charlotte, Quinella and Miyuki. You are my only hope, please rescue my mother, I beg of you. Kunu begged while tears fell from her eyes. She wanted Issei to save her mother just like he once did. Like I said, she is not my problem. If anything, I don't even care if she lives or dies. Issei's words were cold as Kunu sniffled. She hated her past self for doing that to Issei. As Issei was about to walk away, he was easily able to remove Kunu's hands as she was too weak. She kept crying. However, another hand stopped him from moving as he looked to see Harahim Sanjano, the handmaiden of Kunu. She has long blonde hair, green eyes and fox ears and a tail. She wore a red kimono. I won't let you make Kunu cry anymore, Harahim spoke angrily, making Issei laugh as Haruhime pulled her hand back. Your bravery is admirable, Sanjano, but that won't change my decision. You made your choice a long time ago. Goodbye, Issei spoke while walking away. I have things to do. I would suggest you to head back home before I send you back myself. Issei walked away, leaving Kuna completely breaking down in tears. Haruhime could do only little as she watched Issei leave, as she spoke to Kuna with a smile. Kuna-sama, let's leave. I believe he is not in a mood now. He will help another time. Kuna looked at her with tears in her eyes and nodded. They both then teleported away as Issei scoffed. He had better things to do than deal with a child and her lost cause of affection. Many were surprised by how cold he had become. Some understood why he was this cold to them, but knew that he was in the right. He made it clear that he did not want to do anything with them. Aika wanted to voice her complaint as she shouted, "Brother, she is just a child. How can you do this to her?" Issei scoffed as he responded with a mocking tone. She is not my problem. I am not Dai, her savior. That man is already a fraud. Issei spoke with an angered tone, remembering what Kuna had told him. Mother and Dai-kun are right. You really are nothing but a pervert. I can't believe I believe someone like you. Issei knew that Dai had manipulated her, and she was just a child, but that does not excuse what she said to him. How heartless can you be, brother? Aika shouted, wanting her brother to see reason, at least now. Aika was right, he had become cold and heartless. The old Issei would not have thought twice and would have even fought against Malik and Grievous to save Yusaka, just like he did with the hero faction. But that man is long dead, the factions killed him, and pray tell me whose fault was that? The factions made me into what I am today, they killed the man, and I am what remains of that man. As he spoke as he walked away, he no longer wanted to deal with her. He was followed by Nyx, Charlotte, Gwenola and Miyuki as they all headed upstairs. Leave Aika, the Issei that once cared, was gone. Mickey spoke with a sad tone, remembering all the times Issei had ignored her, and Aika, as she walked away with her. The only ones left were the girls that were engaged to Issei, as well as Ingvild and Valerie. I still can't believe that he has changed to such an extent. Mirana spoke in sadness. As Athena consoled her, Sikvara spoke with equal sadness. It is to be expected, the factions treated him like garbage. It is no wonder he does not want to help them. Latia nodded in agreement to Sekiruuyetei's words. And sure, I may not trust him because of his natural aggression, but I understand his reasons for not helping the factions anymore. Sekiruuyetei spoke with a neutral tone. She still held anger against the factions for giving her away. Even then, to see a hero change into a cold-hearted man, the factions have really screwed this up. Moana spoke with sadness as Athena responded, I agree with you, and yet they expect his help. Ingvald spoke, to which Valerie agreed to Ingvald as she spoke seriously with hints of sadness. We made him this way. It is no wonder he does not want to help us. And the way it is going, I have a feeling that the factions might come to an end, and there is nothing that was going to stop the inevitable. Valerie's words brought dread to some of the members present. They only could hope things would get better. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.